Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I request that you can take your places in the auditorium chairs. Thank you.
Watch the morning chase the night, followed by a misty light. Oh, you know what it's like, oh, you know what it's like, I know you do. Birds singing melodies, gazing from the tops of trees. Oh, you know what it's like, oh, you know what it's like, I know you do. Stay a little longer, just a little longer, count me out. Oh,
Minhas senhoras e meus senhores, de novo, boa tarde. Solicito novamente que possam tomar os vossos lugares nas cadeiras disponíveis do auditório. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon again. I ask that you can take your places in the auditorium chairs. Thank you.
All kinds all the time. I don't need wrongs to make things right. Spirits lift him like a kite. Oh, you know what it's like, oh, you know what it's like, I know you do. It's everything as it should be. Let worries slip away from me. You know what it's like, oh, you know what it's like. I know you do. So I stay a little longer, just a little longer, count me out. And I listen to the wind, companion of our time. Ease and restless minds of all kinds, every time.
Minhas senhoras e meus senhores, boa tarde, bem-vindas e bem-vindos ao PES Social Summit 2023. Em 2017, da Cimeira Social para o Emprego Justo e Crescimento, Organizada pelo então primeiro-ministro da Suécia, Stefan Löfven, nasceu o Pilar Europeu dos Direitos Sociais. Em 2021, sob a égide da presidência portuguesa do Conselho da União Europeia, Portugal acolheu a Cimeira Social, da qual se lavrou o mais abrangente e ambicioso compromisso alguma vez alcançado de forma tripartida ao nível da União Europeia, o Compromisso Social do Porto, focado em garantir e apoiar coletivamente uma agenda ambiciosa de recuperação e de modernização económica e social. Hoje, a par do Fórum Social do Porto 2023 e a um ano das eleições europeias, juntamo-nos aqui, em Matosinhos, para um balanço destes compromissos e das suas conquistas em matérias de igualdade, trabalho, proteção social e inclusão. Minhas senhoras e meus senhores, para iniciar esta sessão, vai usar da palavra a Presidente da Câmara Municipal de Matosinhos. Ladies and gentlemen, to open this session, we'll have the floor the Mayor of the Municipality of Matosinhos, Luísa Salgueiro.
Caras e caros congressistas, uma saudação geral a todos, mas permitam-me um cumprimento especial a Maria Manuel Leitão Marques, enquanto chefe da Delegação dos Socialistas Portugueses no Parlamento Europeu, e ao Stefan Löfven, que eu já vi aí, enquanto Presidente do Partido Socialista Europeu. Minhas caras e meus caros, membros do Parlamento Europeu, membros do Governo, alguns aqui na sala, outros no exterior. É um gosto muito grande para Matosinhos receber este Social Summit do Partido Socialista Europeu. E compreendemos bem a razão pela qual escolheram Matosinhos e particularmente este edifício para fazermos esta nossa cimeira. Matosinhos é uma terra com fortes tradições, muito ligada ao mar, às pescas, que quase podemos ver daqui, os barcos que diariamente partem para pescar a sardinha e trazer o melhor peixe do mundo, que é servido aqui nos 400 restaurantes de peixe de Matosinhos. Mas é também uma terra muito comprometida com a inovação, com o conhecimento e com a transição energética e digital. E também este edifício simboliza muito disso. Aqui é a sede do Centro de Ciências de Investigação das Ciências do Mar da Universidade do Porto. Este é um edifício já icónico, uma marca da melhor arquitetura portuguesa, aqui na terra da sede do Centro Português de Arquitetura, que hoje mesmo vai inaugurar uma grande exposição do Pritzker Paulo Mendes da Rocha, um grande arquiteto brasileiro que entregou todo o seu acervo à Casa da Arquitetura de Matosinhos. Mas também daqui, não fora estes painéis, podemos ver ao longe as flamas e as chaminés da refinaria de Lessa da Palmeira. Uma refinaria que foi encerrada há 1 ano e meio e que traz consigo um grande desafio. Por um lado, esse encerramento significou um passo à frente em matéria de descarbonização e de transição climática, mas também trouxe consigo a sombra dos postos de trabalho que foram encerrados, da fragilidade social dos mais de 200 trabalhadores que viram a sua vida prejudicada e de tantas famílias. E este é um bom exemplo de como foi possível, numa articulação estreita entre o poder local, o Governo Nacional e a Comissão Europeia, nós encontrarmos forma de estarmos ao lado das pessoas. O Fundo de Transição Justa alocou uma verba especial à comunidade matosinhense para que nós possamos garantir que demos um passo em frente na descarbonização e na transição climática, mas que não deixamos ninguém para trás. E nesse domínio não é indiferente que nós sejamos liderados por socialistas ou não. A liderança socialista local, a liderança socialista nacional e uma visão humanista europeia permitiu que nós demos claramente esta mensagem ao presente para o futuro. Nós vamos ser capazes de avançar em nome dos compromissos e objetivos comuns que garantam a sustentabilidade da espécie e do planeta, mas sempre pondo em causa e pondo em destaque e em primeiro lugar o que nos move. As pessoas, a dignidade das pessoas. E é isso que nós estamos a fazer aqui em Matosinhos, em conjunto com o Governo e com a Comissão Europeia e o Parlamento Europeu. Mas também quero aqui deixar-vos uma mensagem, noutra qualidade que assumo, que é de Presidente da Associação Nacional dos Municípios Portugueses, e sublinhar a importância do momento que Portugal vive atualmente, quando um governo socialista decidiu que o melhor nível para exercício de competências estruturais na vida das pessoas deve ser o nível do município. E por isso, na anterior e na atual legislatura, transferimos 22 competências centrais para os municípios, onde se destacam a ação social, a educação e a saúde, que passam agora a ser exercidas pelas câmaras municipais e pelas juntas de freguesia. Mas não foi uma qualquer transferência de competências, foi uma transferência de competências que garantiu os adequados meios e recursos, seja financeiros, humanos ou materiais. E o compromisso que vos quero aqui deixar, seja enquanto Presidente da Câmara Municipal que hoje vos acolhe, seja enquanto Presidente da Associação Nacional de Municípios, é de que nós vamos continuar a exercer este poder de forma partilhada, garantindo que, nesta fase decisiva da nossa história comum, que queremos atingir objetivos ambiciosos, seja em matéria de transição climática, seja em matéria de transição digital, os princípios que inspiram o pilar europeu dos direitos sociais não deixarão de estar presentes na intervenção política, seja ao nível local, seja ao nível nacional. E esta capacidade de reivindicação dos municípios portugueses é bem conhecida e não é nova. E nós não tememos elevar a voz sempre que é necessário, mas quero aqui deixar-vos nesta sede, numa reunião de socialistas europeus, o testemunho de como foi e é possível, com uma liderança de um primeiro-ministro como António Costa e de membros do governo que aqui estão presentes, como Ana Mendes Godinho ou Ana Sofia Antunes, mas também com a Marta Temido e o Manel Pizarro e com o Tiago Brandão Rodrigues e o João Costa, como foi possível nós fazermos uma reforma ao nível da administração pública portuguesa, garantindo às pessoas não só os mesmos direitos, mas mais direitos, um Estado mais forte, melhor dignidade para as pessoas e, sobretudo, mais respeito pela autonomia local. Esta é, sem dúvida, uma marca socialista de que nós nos devemos orgulhar, de que nós devemos valorizar e que eu aqui, humildemente, pretendo representar. É, pois, para mim uma honra, um privilégio, seja enquanto anfitriã aqui em Matosinhos, seja enquanto autarca socialista, acompanhar-vos em mais este momento em que vamos ter condições de discutir o que nos move, o que faz com que o mundo ande para a frente, uma visão humanista sustentada nos valores do socialismo democrático europeu e que terão um palco privilegiado aqui hoje em Matosinhos, neste fantástico terminal. É esta a mensagem que vos quero deixar, convidando-vos, obviamente, a desfrutarem de Matosinhos para além deste edifício. Não percam a nossa paisagem, a nossa gastronomia, que pede messas a qualquer outra. Votos de bom trabalho para todos. Bem-vindos a Matosinhos. Viva o Partido Socialista Europeu.
A prossecução dos direitos sociais faz-se, entre outros, a nível municipal, mas é também fortemente influenciada pelo trabalho desenvolvido ao nível comunitário, em particular pelos esforços levados a cabo pelos membros do Parlamento Europeu. Minhas senhoras e meus senhores, chamo a vossa atenção para a intervenção da Presidente da Delegação Portuguesa no Parlamento Europeu. Ladies and gentlemen, I call your attention for the speech from the head of the Portuguese Socialist Party delegation in the European Parliament, Maria Manuel Leitão Marques.
Caros amigos, companheiros, camaradas, Sr. Comissário, Sra. Ministra, Srs. Membros de Governo aqui presentes, Senhora Presidente da Câmara de Matosinhos, que nos acolhe, nossa anfitriã, muito obrigada. Queria começar por lembrar que as duas crises que atravessaram a nossa vida desde 2020 nos desafiaram muito do ponto de vista social. Tivemos que inventar respostas em modo de urgência para acudir aos que viviam sós, para incluir os que não sabiam digitar, para educar os que não podiam ir à escola e, mais recentemente, para reduzir as prestações da casa e controlar a conta do supermercado. Sabíamos, antes da crise, que já não tínhamos todas as soluções para novos problemas sociais, como os de saúde mental, como os de inclusão efetiva de pessoas com deficiência, como o envelhecimento ativo, entre muitos outros exemplos. E sabíamos que as transições digital e climática iriam precisar de um pilar social forte e muito criativo, sob pena de os que ficam para trás as rejeitarem. 12 milhões de empregos perdidos devido à automação são as previsões até 2040. Sabíamos também que precisávamos de inovar no domínio social, com mais implicação das empresas na formação dos trabalhadores, com mais investimento social, mais ideias novas para resolver problemas sociais. E assim fizemos aqui em Portugal com a iniciativa Portugal Inovação Social, que é hoje uma referência europeia, recentemente renovada e muito bem pelo Governo até 2030. Aqui no Norte, onde estamos hoje, estão a ser desenvolvidos muitos projetos de inovação social para a cidadania, para a educação, para a inclusão, para a capacitação digital, como os que visitei hoje de manhã, a Valorine, em Vila do Conde, que permite a integração profissional de pessoas com deficiência, ou a Comunidade Criativa de Inclusão Digital de Guimarães, que estimula o voluntariado para apoiar pessoas infoexcluídas, principalmente em zonas remotas desse concelho. Aqui, em Portugal, o nosso governo socialista está a desenvolver um projeto piloto que avaliará a chamada Semana de 4 dias, promovendo, além do mais, uma melhor conciliação entre a vida profissional, pessoal e familiar, e está comprometido com a agenda do trabalho digno. E lá em Bruxelas, tem sido o nosso grupo, o grupo dos socialistas e democratas, a desenhar novos direitos adequados à economia digital, como o direito a desligar ou os direitos dos trabalhadores das plataformas digitais. No futuro próximo, teremos também de nos preparar para uma sociedade cada vez mais pobre em trabalho. Precisamos de novos modelos de viver, de uma educação diferente que valorize o bem-estar físico, a cultura e tarefas que hoje em dia não consideramos trabalho, como o apoio à família, como cuidar dos mais vulneráveis, como a animação, o divertimento e o voluntariado. Provavelmente no futuro teremos uma ministra do Trabalho e talvez também uma ministra dos Tempos Livres, com a mesma importância da do trabalho. Precisamos de um Estado virado não apenas para a economia, mas que ajude a criar sentido na vida das pessoas. O nosso ADN, o nosso dos socialistas, nunca foi o de destruir as instituições, mas também nunca foi o de as manter como tradicionalmente elas foram desenhadas. O nosso ADN sempre foi o de as reformar para as adaptar a nós. Nessa altura saíamos de uma crise e não esperávamos outra. Voltamos agora para fazer o ponto de situação e, sobretudo, voltamos para reafirmar o nosso empenho para que a Europa disponha das respostas sociais que nos ajudem a encontrar o norte em tempos de crise e durante as transições disruptivas como a que estamos a viver. Muito obrigada pela vossa atenção.
Historicamente, os sindicatos sempre estiveram na linha da frente das conquistas sociais, económicas e laborais. Minhas senhoras e meus senhores, a vossa atenção para a mensagem da Secretária-Geral da Confederação Europeia dos Sindicatos. Ladies and gentlemen, I ask for your attention for the video message from the Secretary-General of the European Trade Union Confederation, Esther Lynch.
Friends, hello from the ETUC Congress. We're here discussing Together for a Fair Deal. Key to that will be the European Pillar of Social Rights. We need to make sure that no matter what rules are established at the end of the year for fiscal rules, that the achievement of the rights in the European Pillar of Social Rights is not put at risk, but instead it acts as a shield to protect the most vulnerable. We also need investments for a just transition. To make sure that no worker is left behind, this needs to guarantee opportunities, including training. But there can be no blank cheques. Instead, we need to make sure that whenever we're giving funding, public procurement or whatever, that this comes with a price tag, and that price tag is quality jobs and a collective agreement. Friends, I'll see you soon, and thank you for giving me this opportunity from our Congress.
Minhas senhoras e meus senhores, para terminar esta sessão de abertura, é hora para ouvirmos o Vice-Secretário-Geral do Partido Europeu Socialista, Ionek Pollet. Ladies and gentlemen, to close this opening session, it's time to hear from the Deputy Secretary-General of the Party of European Socialists, Ionek Pollet.
Yes, hello everybody. I'm very glad, I'm extremely pleased to be with you today and welcome all of you in Porto. It's great to see so many members from our political family together in this beautiful city. We have representatives from our member parties, from national government, from the European Commission, from the European Parliament, with the S&D Group, with the Committee of the Region being present, with the Economic and Social Committee, from YES, the Young European Socialists, from the Trade Union. We had just Esther Lynch, and we have to apologize her because she was just re-elected General Secretary of the ETUC in Berlin, and that's why she cannot be with us right now, but I think that we can give her a big applause for her re-election. Well done, Esther, and it's a pleasure to work with you. And we have also representative of the civil society, so thanks to all of you for being present. And I would like, of course, to greet and thank our host, which is the Socialist Party, the Partido Socialista of Portugal. Thank you very much to Antonio Costa, the Secretary General and Prime Minister of the party, for welcoming us here. Thank you. I think that we can give also a big applause to the party for this wonderful organization. So today we are here after Gothenburg in 2017, hosted and initiated by Stefan Löfven, Prime Minister. Also after Porto 2021, the second European Social Summit. We are here to show once again that it's us, the PES, our family, that brings social progress to Europe. It's us, our political family, that push forward landmark files such as the minimum wage, collective bargaining directive, SURE instrument, platform work directive, and many other emblematic files that has been done, achieved, or worked on during this mandate. We should be proud, and we are proud of these achievements, learn from our past fight, and generate momentum for a strong social agenda in view to the European election 2024. The dedication to social topics may be or seem evident, but it was not always a given, and we had to fight for it. So now we need to keep up this momentum, and we must never let social issues come second. We need to thank once again Antonio Costa and the Porto Social Forum that give us the perfect opportunity to do so. So once again, thanks to everyone, thanks to all the speakers, and I wish you a very and a good conference. Thank you very much.
Uma Europa social forte implica um trabalho contínuo. É tempo agora de uma reflexão subordinada ao tema O Pilar em Ação, as nossas lutas por uma Europa mais social. Peço ao João Duarte Albuquerque, membro do Parlamento Europeu, para, enquanto moderador, subir ao palco. I ask João Duarte Albuquerque, member of the European Parliament, to, as a moderator, come up to the stage. Para se juntarem a este primeiro painel, chamo, to join this panel I call, Ana Mendes Godinho, Frank Vandenbroek, José Luís Escrivá, Agnes Jungerius, Rolf Schmatzenberger e Tiago Antunes.
Agnes. Here. It's up to you. Yeah? Yeah.
I think I wrote the stage.
Very well. Thank you very much. While we are settling in, I take the opportunity to thank the PES for organizing this together with the Socialist Party in Portugal. I think it's very timely that we do this and that we continue to show to our citizens who is leading the dialogue and the narrative in order to bring social change. I think that we all remember that in 92 we set the principles for the Union of Monetary and Economic Union. And it took us 25 years to then bring the first social summit and to adopt the pillar of the social rights. So we can start this also by saying something that I find very important. According to the OECD, the risk of downward mobility among lower middle-income households has risen in the last 2 decades and is expected to continue to increase. My first question would be to the Minister of Labour of Portugal, Ana Mendes Godinho, who I warmly welcome, is how can our political family best push for a more social Europe?
Well, hello? Is it working? Not yet. Hello? Yes, it's working. Well, first of all, it's great to be again together in Porto, because I think this is a sign and a very strong energy, good energy that we are sending to the world from here, from Porto. 2 years after the Porto Social Summit, that was a turning point of the answer that European was giving even to the pandemic. Well, what should we do? I think it was obvious for all of us in the last 2 years how it was important to put in place the Porto Action Plan. And what we have to get from now on is to guarantee that the European Pillar of Social Rights, we have to guarantee that we make it real. We have to guarantee that we make it stronger. We have to guarantee that we make it felt by people. We have to guarantee that we make it real. That means approving the European Child Guarantee. We did it. That means approving the long-term strategy. We did it. That means approving the social economy strategy. We did it together. That means improving wages and approving a directive on adequate minimum wages, and we did it. This is making the pillar a reality. Second, we must make it stronger. It has to have more voice in the governance of Europe. We have to push to guarantee that the pillar is what drives us. In the basis of everything we do, the pillar must be standing, but we must make it felt. This is critical. This is critical to answer populism. This is critical to answer extremism. Only if people feel that the pillar has an answer to day-to-day life, they will feel that the pillar is for us. The pillar must be built together. That's what we've been doing and pushing in Portugal, namely with the social agreement, the tripartite social agreement for the next 4 years, where we give stability to companies, but we also give stability to workers and stability to families. Social Europe is made of people, and we must guarantee that people stand and trust and have confidence in us. This is critical. This is why we must guarantee that we push, that's what we've been pushing, in a decent agenda for jobs, a decent agenda for wages, to increase wages, a decent agenda to combat child poverty, with concrete actions for people daily life. So I would say our main challenge is to guarantee that the European Pillar of Social Rights has a direct effect in people's lives. And that's why the Porto Social Forum is again another moment to guarantee that we are involving society, civil society, social partners in the discussion of what we are doing. Just to give you an example, what we've done in Portugal for the first time is to guarantee that we discriminate companies, in a positive way of course, companies that access European and national funds if they have active and dynamic social dialogue. This means if they have collective bargaining that was negotiated in the last 3 years. This is guaranteeing, again, that the European funds are also mobilized according to what is active social participation. We must bring people to the pillar and the pillar to the people.
Very well, thank you very much. We have a very strong panel of policymakers that are very much into action when it comes to put together the pillar. We have Frank van den Broek, who is Deputy Prime Minister and with the portfolios for social affairs and health. And Frank, Belgium and Spain have proposed to better monitor social developments in member states in order to assure they are visible in the semester. How can this change the policies put forward in the European semester?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the invitation. Dear friends, I would like to follow up immediately on what Anna said. I think for us socialists, the challenge is to turn these 20 very beautiful principles of the pillar into tangible reality. And a lot has been done, but there is still more to do. And when the pillar was launched, we were saying that the European Union has to mobilize everything it has at its disposal to turn the pillar into reality. It's indeed about funding. It's about legislation. It's about creating new actors like the European Labour Authority that has been created, which should be reinforced. But it's also about linking the economic and fiscal policies of the Union to those principles of the pillar. And that's what I indeed would like to talk about for 2 or 3 minutes. We must really, at this very moment, entrench the pillar's principles into the new economic governance framework. How can we do that? We've indeed been working on this with our Spanish friends, and we are pushing through, I think, an important innovation, which we now call the social convergence framework. Why social convergence? Because basically, the pillar of social rights is all about upward social convergence across the Union, within the member states and between the member states. How can we do that? The social convergence framework not only sharpens the analysis of social problems and social challenges at the level of the committees that work on this, like the Social Protection Committee, the Employment Committee, it not only will give more visibility to social objectives in the European semester, but moreover it will enhance the focus of the economic and fiscal policies and the budgetary surveillance on this fundamental objective of upward social convergence by bringing in a framework that will signal problems, signal challenges, focus on specific problems in specific countries, and thus have impact not only on the country-specific recommendations, but on the whole setup of the European semester. That is the challenge. And the time is really now, because this economic governance is under review. And I should say, I feel uneasy by the debate that is going, because there is a real risk that our economic framework will turn again to a rather one-sided and narrow-minded focus simply on fiscal consolidation. Whilst we know that by investing in a strong public sector, by investing in intelligent social policies, you also create productive potential. I'm very pleased to say that on the 12th of May, a report on this new social convergence framework proposal, a report on this proposal has been accepted by the Social Protection Committee and the Employment Committee. That's an important step forward, A number of key principles have been accepted. And the next step, ideally, and I really would like to mobilize you all, the next step should be in June at the EPSCO Council. We hope that there might be there a political endorsement for this new proposal. Why do we hope that? Because time is really putting pressure on us. The new economic governance will be there in 2024, and this framework that focuses on convergence, on social convergence, must be at work. So I'm pleased that we have made that first step. We are working also with the Spanish colleagues on other related ideas on how can we bring in social investment and investment at large into the thinking on economic and fiscal policies. But this important step forward, which has been achieved the 12th of May in those committees, now needs a political endorsement in the next EPSCO Council so that we can really implement it.
Thank you very much, Frank. Our next speaker is José Luis Escrivá, the Minister for Inclusion, Social Protection and Migration. My first remark is to wish you good luck for Sunday. Not only good luck, but the recognition of the good work that the government has been doing. We are all hoping for a good result.
We have elections on Sunday.
José Luis, one of the most important outcomes of our battle for a more social Europe is this European pillar of social rights that we have been talking about. What are your vision and priorities for the implementation of the pillar?
Okay. First of all, thank you very much for the invitation. I think this is a great initiative of the for the PES and also from the Portuguese Social Party. Very much pleased to be here, of course. And I think I am going to follow up on what my colleagues have just said, because there is, I think we have, as it was said, a convergence of initiative, of views. Certainly, we need to upgrade the social dimension in the European semester and in the European economic institutional framework. We very much support the initiative, and we continue working in the next few months on the convergence, social convergence mechanism. Now I think it's very well designed, and I also have very good expectation about that. In our presidency, we also want to work also with follow up with the support of the Belgian presidencies, know that afterwards, on the fiscal framework, which now is under designed on giving a higher status to social investment in the budgetary process. I think that this is a major aspiration, but I think there's a lot of work to be done, but it's also something that will put the social dimension very much in the economic framework at the European level. Second initiative I think is very important is that we need to, it might be seen now more aspirational, but on the fight against poverty, very much over the medium term, we should strive for, as we already achieved on the minimum wage, minimum income scheme directive. Now we have recommendations, but if we continue working in this direction, at a certain point in time, we should aspire to have also a European framework in legislation, enacted in legislation. I think this is very important, and this would allow us to, as a major instrument, to fight against poverty in a more decisive manner, or child poverty, as Anna mentioned. And finally, I think if I have to pick up something else, which is more conjunctural at the present stage, on the 20 social pillars, what we have seen with this bout of inflation following the war in Ukraine is that the burden has very unequally distributed between workers and firms. Actually, even the European Central Bank recently has produced important pieces showing that while the loss of purchasing power of the workers via salary has been significant in most European countries, by contrast, firms has managed to maintain their margins and profit very much preserved. I think this reflects something which is an unequal situation in the wage bargaining process, in the way social dialogue is producing in Europe. This is something which is very much in the social pillars, and I think we should be innovative and think from the European perspective in making the playing field more symmetric, more level, but in order to avoid these income redistribution outcomes that certainly from our perspective need to be corrected. If I had to pick up, I would pick up these three things at this stage. Thank you.
Thank you very much, José Luis. Agnes Jongerius, she's a member of the European Parliament and the S&D coordinator on the Employment Committee. Agnes, you have been working on the minimum wage directive very intensively. What were the main challenges during the negotiations? And most importantly, I think what's everybody asking is, how will this directive contribute to a more social Europe?
I think what was most challenging was that, of course, let's say employers in Europe are a little bit used to the fact that they just want to say no. So there was a proposal and they just wanted to say no. Of course, handling this file, you start talking to them. But if people just say, we don't want this, I also warned them for that. If you just say no, then we are going to consult the other social partner on how to deal with this file. And then the interest of the employers are not taken on board. I think the main challenge, to be honest, is delivered by Nicolas Schmid. Because before starting to work on this directive, he had to have the fight in the European Commission, where also not everyone was a fan of this proposal. Member states who are thinking, why do we have this proposal? So to keep his turf and saying this is what is important for people, I think here Nicolas Schmid, our Commissioner for Social Affairs, really deserves a big round of applause. And if you're now asking what can we do next, I'd like to learn a little bit from the experience of Ana Mendes Cordinho. If she would have a fan club, I would be the cheerleader of this fan club. Because I think what she is doing in Portugal, and I know Hubertus Heil also promised this in Germany, is, I think you can call it, put your money where the law is. If now in the law it's stated that in every member state 80% of the workers should be covered by a collective agreement, then let's make this a condition for handing out public money. And you can do this, of course, at member state level. But I would also think it would be quite nice to have this in the Public Procurement Directive, a European directive. And perhaps I'm not able to succeed in the next year to change the Public Procurement Directive, but aiming for the stars and put the money where the law is would be a very good idea.
Thank you very much, Agnes. It's definitely going to be a challenge, and now that we are coming close to the end of the term. Rolf Schmachtenberg, and this was the biggest challenge of the evening for me, to say your name. State Secretary at the Ministry of Labour and Social Affairs. Rolf, it is clear that we cannot just look inwards, but we also need to think about Europe's impact in the world. How do we uphold European social and employment standards in our supply chains and trade relationships?
Before coming to this point, I would like to really add to what Agnes said, that I remember very well when we were campaigning in Berlin for the last European elections, we campaigned for the minimum wage in Europe. And now, next year, we have to campaign again, so we can say, delivered. So thank you all that we have done this. There's really a point also of confidence, and now we can go to the next steps, to the next development. Coming back to the question, fantastic place here in the middle of the harbor to talk about global trade. So the universal protection of human rights and decent work worldwide are key concerns for us and should be guiding principles for our supply chains and trade relationships. Concerning supply chains, we have to work on the national level, on the European level, and on the international, the ILO level, the UN level. Concerning the national level, we are very happy that we could introduce a few years ago the German Supply Chain Due Diligence Act, which requires large German companies to exercise due diligence along their supply chains with regard to human rights and the environment. This was a long debate also, to include environment. So far it concerns companies with more than 3,000 employees, but soon, next year, we go a step further. All companies with more than 1,000 employees will be concerned. And we are very happy that on the EU level, we expect the Corporate Sustainability Due Diligence Directive to be adopted quite soon. And on the international level, we support an international convention of the ILO. And we encourage the EU to engage in a constructive negotiation in order to jointly achieve also this on that level. And concerning trade, we are very happy that the European Commission has adopted a communication on green and just trade. And we very much welcome the clear commitment in the communication for trade agreements. That is a key driver to uphold the international labor standards and ensuring the effective implementation. So this has to be on the way, and this we have to follow up.
Thank you very much, Rolf. Tiago Antunes is the State Secretary for European Affairs, and Porto is very intimately connected now, and also Matosinhos, I have to say, from this moment on, to the social pillar and to the social rights. And as you know, this European legislative mandate has seen social issues grow on the EU agenda. We are coming close to the end of this mandate, to 2024 and the elections. Do you think that they can be as high on the EU's priority list during the next mandate?
Thank you. Yes, they can. I believe they can and they must. And it's up to us socialists to make sure that that happens. Because it was with our push that we had the Göttingen Summit and the adoption of the European Pillar of Social Rights, that we then had the Porto Summit with a strong social commitment by all European institutions and all social partners, that we now have the Porto Forum today and tomorrow and every 2 years to keep the social rights and to put the social rights high up on the European agenda, and to send a clear message to all the Europeans that we are on their side, that we value their social standards, or we care about their social standards, and we want to improve their living conditions. And it was with our push that over the last few months, the EU has adopted a number of legislation in terms of the Women on Boards Directive that was stalled for many, many years, the Minimum Wage Directive that we were just talking about, the Salary Transparency Directive, and we keep pushing for on other legislative files like the digital platforms and others. And it was with our push that we now have a child guarantee to fight child poverty, and it was with our push that policies were put in place to help Europeans deal with economic and social consequences of the pandemic and now of the war. So, in any case, this is just the beginning, and there is lots of work ahead. So when we start looking at the next term or mandate at the European level, there is lots of work ahead, and we need to present ourselves as the ones that care for solidarity, as the ones that in the midst of the ongoing green and digital transitions leave no one behind. And this cannot just be an empty sentence that we keep repeating. This is something that we have to deliver on, like here in Matosinhos, in the refinery, with the people that are losing jobs of the old economy, helping them reskill and upskill to seize the opportunities of the new economy. This is leaving no one behind. We need to present ourselves as the ones that promote effective upward social convergence, the ones that are, for instance, facing the challenges of artificial AI, artificial intelligence, and its impact on the labor market, we need to present ourselves as the ones that provide concrete answers to young people now starting their working lives and telling them that they are not doomed to precariousness, that they are entitled to have decent working conditions, they are entitled to good salaries, they are entitled to affordable housing and to affordable childcare. So this is the message that we have to convey, because this is our DNA. Because the European Union and its policies, they are about the citizens, about responding to the citizens' needs, about protecting them from hardship and enhancing their living conditions. So all of this has to be quite high in our political manifesto for the next European elections.
Thank you very much, Tiago. We are running very much late, so this time I'm going from right to left, not ideologically, but how I hope the Parliament goes after 2024. And on this, Agnes will be a little bit more on an advantage side, because I will only give you 1.5 minutes, and in the Parliament, 1.5 minutes is already a luxury.
Enormous luxury.
But I will start with Tiago on the second round, so we will have to make it brief due to time constraints. Some policymakers believe that social affairs should only be addressed at national level. What do you think is the best argument for a common European response to these social problems?
Okay, I'll be very brief. I'll try. So we know that social policy is primarily, nowadays, as we stand, primarily competence of the member states. There are some shared competencies, but even there is this principle of subsidiarity, etc. All of this is the legal answer, the state of play. But from a political standpoint, obviously, Europe has to respond to the needs of the citizens, as I was saying. That's what happened during the pandemic, even though EU competencies regarding health were not that big. There was a need to move forward collectively in the spirit of solidarity with this joint acquisition of vaccines. And now with the war, we are seeing also areas in which the European Union was not supposed to act, but it has to be there. It cannot it cannot not see what the needs of the citizens are. And this is also what the citizens have asked during the Conference on the Future of Europe, a more social Europe and more social responses at the European level. And there are challenges like the transitions, the twin transitions that I was mentioning, that cannot be answered just at the national level. And there are topics like brain drain that clearly need to be addressed at the European level. So yes, a lot is up to the member states, but there is much that can and should be done, and that the citizens expect that will be done and delivered at European level. And this is also key if we want to fight populism and nationalistic views, to provide real European answers to the needs of the citizens.
Thank you. Rolf, I will follow up on what Tiago was just saying about the twin transition and how we know that it's changing the way we work and the work we know. Where do you see potential for good quality jobs to be created in this twin process, and how we can foster this?
Actually, we have a huge demand of jobs. So at the same time, we know that we are losing jobs. The mayor of the city was mentioning here the effects. So there will be a big structural change, but basically we have to rebuild our whole infrastructure, and we are in need of a lot of very qualified people in very many fields. And this is a huge task, and I think we have to use the whole orchestra of active labor market policy we know. Maybe we have to even develop it further. And doing this, I think we have to strengthen democracy at work, because it's also about the acceptance of this change process. And democracy of work can help also in the co-management of this process and to find good solutions. We have to strengthen bargaining power. Very good that we have the minimum directive with this 80% goal, so that we include this. And it's very important, and I'm very happy that the Commission people are working on this, that now when we are spending money for certain programs, we have always to put conditions on this. This is very important now for me also with the Green Deal. Here we should not fall back behind Joe Biden, who in the IRA had clear-cut conditions. We have to work that we don't lose this momentum in Europe. So in all our fields, we have to implement those conditions. And I'm very happy that with respect to the fiscal policy, now also European social pillars come into the picture. That's a great good news, but this has to be really still implemented.
Thank you very much for this. Agnes, you co-authored very recently a report from the Parliament side on a roadmap for Porto. This is exactly what we are not here to celebrate, but to know how to implement and how to continue the pressure for this to be implemented. Where do you think that the main challenges are at the moment?
I think one of the challenges is indeed to keep the momentum. So that's why I think it's very important that we are back in Porto talking about the European pillar and how to implement it. If I am allowed to put our wish list on the table, it is indeed the 80% as a condition for handing out public money. It is about indeed fighting child poverty. More needs to be done. More needs to be done there. But I think I'd also like to have attention for the last of the 20 pillars, and that 20 pillar is about essential services for people. We know, of course, that during the crisis because of the war, people had to choose between shall I heat my house or have I enough money to feed my children, heating and eating. And I think this will be the case next year too. But you can also see with the climate change that perhaps in a few years' time, a shortage of drinking water will be one of the issues. And I think next to the Public Procurement Directive, next to the social conditionalities, shall we also look into the Directive for the Services of General Economic Interest, because we really need affordable, accessible, essential services for everyone.
I couldn't agree more. José Luis, Spain is taking over the presidency of the Council of the European Union in the next semester. What are the main issues that you want to address during this 6 months of the Spanish presidency?
Given the color of our government, certainly we have a very ambitious social agenda for our presidency. Let me single out three elements very briefly. We socialists are the major supporters of European integration, of the European project. So in our presidency, we are going to push very much for 3 directives that goes in these directions, in moving more strongly in the direction of the single labor market. One is the directive for the coordination of the social security systems for cross-border workers. The other one is the directive for the single permit, and the other one is the directive for the long-term residency permit. I think that moving in this direction, we are creating better conditions for a single labor market, something which is actually very badly needed for the support of the single currency. The second is, of course, making progress on the social protection agenda. And I would like to single out one project which we have witnessed during the pandemic, how weak is the protection of self-employers. Within the self-employers, we have people with low income, with irregular careers, so we really need to enhance how we protect from our public policies self-employers and extend to them more rights. And finally, we are very much a feminist government, so we have a very strong agenda on supporting women's rights, and there will be a number of initiatives. For instance, in our case, we have made major steps taken in order to reduce gender gap in pensions, for instance, but also in wages, also in representation. So there are so many initiatives in this direction.
Thank you very much, José Luis. We are close to the end. Frank, during the pandemic, we experienced firsthand how essential workers are the backbone of a resilient society, but not always did we reward them accordingly. What do you think needs to be done to improve the way we value these professions?
Yes, that is indeed a lesson we must not forget at the most difficult moment of the pandemic. It was workers in the food retail sector, workers in the transport sector, cleaners, often very poorly paid people that kept our societies running. We should not forget that, together with the healthcare workforce. And that's the reason why, as socialists, everywhere where we are in charge, be it in the European Commission, Nicolas, in Germany, in Belgium, in all the other countries where we are in charge, we have been fighting for decent minimum wages. And we should pursue this. We should pursue this. There's a good reason for that. And it's not just minimum wages, it's working conditions and also workers' rights. At this very moment, in my country, in Belgium, trade unions are fighting against a real threat on workers' rights and trade union representation in the food retail sector. It's a key issue. It's a key issue. About the healthcare workforce, let me say one thing. Again, it's about decent wages, decent working conditions, but also about the value of the job. We should see to it that people who work in healthcare can do the work for which they are trained, can focus on their patients, have time for their patients, can do the care the patients need. That is an important lesson, and that requires investing in healthcare, investing in the workforce, but also rethinking the organization of the workforce. We really have to rethink the organization of the workforce, and that is also a European agenda, because the EU has a huge impact on that. I won't develop that, but that again is a socialist European agenda.
Thank you very much. I wish both of you very successful presidencies, first one, then the other. And Anna, of course, everybody looked at this a bit of a surprise of the social forum in Porto, but it happened 2 years ago, so we know what was the past, what is the track record we have. But how do you see the importance of Porto in projecting the future of social rights in Europe for the future?
Well, I think it's obvious for everyone that the Porto Social Summit was a reboot in the way we looked at how we answer crisis. And I think people believed and put lots of expectations in all of us, in the socialist governments, how we tackle, how we answer people. And this is a big, big challenge for all of us, because we must match the expectations of people in a new world, with a welfare state that has to be different from the previous welfare state. The traditional welfare state does not answer the expectations of people. This is why, and I think we all believe this, we must stick together. The socialists must stick together in the model we defend, in a Europe of free movement of talent, free movement of diversity, but for that, we must stick together in common values. Common values of fair deals, common values of decent work agenda, common values of combating child poverty, like we did it with the pillar. But the pillar, again, must be felt by people. With the child guarantee we approved, this is critical. This is what can change us all, because it can help us cut the cycles of poverty in childhood, but at the same time, we must guarantee inclusion for migrants, but at the same time, we must give young people the belief and the trust that we are building a Europe also for young people. That's why for us, I have to say, we created this free children garden, sorry, the name. And this is so critical because we have to address not only the traditional publics that are under exclusion, but to guarantee that we give the confidence that people are expecting for us. People expect a lot from us. We cannot fail. And that's why I think the Porto Social Forum, again, will be the place to hear people, to listen to people, and to send a strong message to the European model that is based, of course, in people, but a strong message also, I think, to socialists. And we read the signs. We must read the signs, and we must be able to answer people's expectations on us, guaranteeing that Europe is of real people. That's why we are here.
Thank you very much, Anna. We conclude our panel. We were speaking the whole day about who are the champions for social rights. I think we have a great panel of champions for social rights. with whom we count on the future to continue this battle, which is very much our own as socialists. Thank you very much.
No intervalo do primeiro e segundo painéis, é momento de abordagem à ação das estruturas locais dos partidos socialistas, que têm tido um papel preponderante na identificação e na reivindicação das medidas de âmbito social. Minhas senhoras e meus senhores, vai agora usar da palavra o presidente da Federação Distrital do Porto do Partido Socialista. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now hear from the Porto Socialist Party Regional Leader Eduardo Vitor Rodrigues.
Thanks a lot. As leader of the regional organization of the Socialist Party, I'm very happy to be here, and I'm very happy that you are here to discuss the social issues of Europe. Here in Matosinhos, the city of Matosinhos and the region of Porto. From where we can do our experiences, we can give you our experience on local and regional issues. Because in Matosinhos, in lots of cities in the region of Porto, we have on local power our own experience to develop some of the social issues that we talk about today and tomorrow. So I think you are in the right place. You are in a place where we believe in Europe, in the place that we especially believe in social Europe, and a Europe of cohesion, a Europe of hope, and of course, nowadays, a Europe of peace. Our national government, led by António Costa, is surely a good inspiration to all of us and to the build of our social Europe, because it's social Europe, or otherwise it will not be Europe. Have a good work.
Os socialistas têm pautado a sua ação pelo reforço dos sistemas nacionais de proteção social, dos serviços essenciais e das infraestruturas fundamentais, num exercício de equilíbrio entre o crescimento e a sustentabilidade. Centraremos agora a discussão no tópico "O pilar em ação, melhorar o Estado Social na Europa". Chamo ao palco a moderadora Isabel Estrada Carvalhais, membro do Parlamento Europeu. I call to the stage the moderator Isabel Estrada Carvalhais, member of the European Parliament. Para se juntarem a este painel, peço que se juntem à discussão. I ask to join the discussion Tulen Atainen, Claude Hagen, Vasco Cordeiro, Evelyn Log, Laurent Grenguilhomme.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. Please do join me. Yep, go ahead. Thank you. Feel all very much welcomed also by me, humbly. Let me also greet all those who are watching and following us on live streaming as well. So this is a pleasure. I know we are running out of time, so we will have to speed up. Still, it is important that we all have the opportunity to listen to these 5 wonderful speakers. Now, let me just put the scene of this panel. We know that Europe is facing challenging, very difficult times. But challenging times are also opportunity times, times for transformation, times to make sure that our welfare states are capable of delivering more and delivering better to our citizens. Now, the big question is how? And so it is important that we do listen to these insights that you bring today on how we can, for instance, look at social innovation, social economy, to public procurement, to innovative ways of approaching a collective bargaining as building blocks of our welfare state's future. So I would start here with the Tuula, our dear Tuula Atainen, who is Minister for Employment in Finland. And I would ask you, when we think about improving the welfare state, we also think about sharing best practices and learning from each other. Now, could you please share with us a bit what you think of are the advantages, but also, you know, the obstacles and the difficulties of the Nordic model of collective bargaining?
Thank you very much, and it is my pleasure to be here in Porto, and thank you for Anna and Party of Socialists here in Portugal. The key points in Finland, in Sanna Marin's government during these 4 years, have been to support the Finnish contract society, also tripartite cooperation, and also strengthening the atmosphere of trust. And I would like to underline this. This is the most important issue, and it is important that it exists in labor market also. In Finland, employers and employees organizations enter into collective agreements that specify terms and conditions in working life and employment. And in Finland, the generally binding collective agreements have promoted more equal income distribution among people. Also reforms in working life, in particular concerning labor law, employment policy, and health and safety at work. Those are also prepared in consultation with social partners, and it has functioned well. I have worked both also, now I'm Minister for Employment so far, we had just elections, but I have been also working as a Minister of Social Affairs and Health, and I have witnessed also the fruits of tripartite cooperation. So I think that a balanced tripartite cooperation enables the society's stability and also predictability in market as such, and also in labor market and society. For example, tripartite cooperation has historically resulted in large-scale pension reforms, and we have been able to do huge reforms in pensions smoothly and without bigger problems in the political process. Also, during the pandemic, the social partners and the organizations, trade unions and employer side showed very fast ability to get results. So I myself find the sense of trust crucial, and I've been active to make it possible and to continue. So to boost tripartite cooperation and strengthen the trust, I started a project called A Direction for Finland last fall, and the social partners had chance to formulate their shared messages to the new government. So we had elections, and now the government negotiations are going on, and I hope that even though we have the conservative and right-wing party now having these negotiations, I hope that they follow this historical important way of solving things and respect also this Nordic model. So there's lots of things at stake at the moment. It is crucial for the welfare model and welfare society.
Thank you so much. Wonderful. Now, I'm going to Claude Hagen, Minister of Social Security of Luxembourg. And I was mentioning social economy in the beginning. And we know, and you obviously know much better than me, that social economy can really make a difference in complementing welfare states. So how can we better support social economy for a fairer Europe?
First of all, thank you for the floor.
Oh, the micro, is it?
Okay.
Yeah.
First of all, thank you
Lovely.
for the floor, and I will express myself in French so I can make my thoughts spread in a better way. Je voudrais faire une relation directe avec le panel 1 en ce qui concerne la discussion parce que je crois qu'au niveau de l'Europe, on s'est donné quand même la direction d'une entreprise sociale avec des objectifs qui sont donc sociaux, avec des excédents qui sont générés par cette entreprise aussi dans des objectifs sociaux avec les clients, les partenaires, les travailleurs. Donc, au Grand-Duché, on a essayé, à l'aide de Nicolas Schmitt, avec la société d'impact social, de poursuivre et d'entamer ce chemin. Et aujourd'hui, on peut dire que quand même 2% du PIB luxembourgeois sont générés par des ASIS, c'est-à-dire des sociétés d'impact social. Et on peut aussi dire que ça représente actuellement à peu près 4% de l'emploi national. Donc, une société d'impact social a fait ses preuves et on va continuer dans cette direction. Naturellement, pour continuer dans cette direction, il faut donc sensibiliser l'économie sociale à travers notre pays, à travers l'Europe, comme on est en train de le faire. Il faut renforcer les entreprises de l'économie sociale et soutenir la croissance des entreprises sociales. Et je crois qu'en prenant des mesures concrètes, on peut avancer très favorablement dans ce domaine. Il faut seulement créer un environnement juridique qui soit favorable à la création de ces entreprises, aussi du point de vue de l'employement, aussi au point de vue fiscal, aussi du point de vue des aides étatiques pour vraiment appuyer ce système de société d'impact social. Et en même temps, on a une relation directe avec des entrepreneurs et des jeunes entrepreneurs. Et si les jeunes entrepreneurs, par exemple, à l'aide des startups, investissent à l'aide de leur entourement économique, de l'appui étatique dans des sociétés sociales, d'impact social, on peut dire que ces entrepreneurs vont léguer leurs connaissances aux nouveaux entrepreneurs, aux salariés, et c'est dans ce domaine qu'on voit quand même que c'est presque devenu une tradition de faire des réflexions dans ce domaine-là pour la création d'entreprises. Et pour terminer, on a créé au Luxembourg aussi une sorte d'incubateur pour tout simplement cadrer ces entreprises s'ils ont fait le choix d'aller dans une telle direction. Donc, je crois quand même la relation directe avec le panel 1 et maintenant ici pour le panel 2, la discussion, c'est dans cette réflexion qu'on doit continuer.
Merci bien, Claude, merci. Et je passe la parole a Vasco, Vasco Cordeiro. E vou fazer a pergunta em inglês, enfim, acho que não se importará, já que está assim alinhado o nosso figurino. Since the pandemic, we saw that the EU was capable of mobilizing unprecedented amounts of recovery funds. And my question to Vasco Cordeiro, President of the European Committee of Regions, is exactly how can we ensure that this European funding supports social and green priorities?
Well, thank you so much, Isabel. First, let me greet o secretário-geral do Partido Socialista, António Costa, and the president of the PES, Stefan Leuven, and greeting them, I greet everybody. Now, the shortest and simplest answer to your question is vote. Put progressives and socialists in a position where they can make things happen at local, regional, national, and European level. That's the best way to ensure that the social and green priorities are duly taken account. Because make no mistake, there is not this thing that, oh, everybody defends the green priority and the social priorities. What recent history and the present days clearly demonstrate us is that one of the differences between progressives and socialists and the other approaches to these issues is, well, when they face the first obstacles to their ready-made convictions, they are willing to let those convictions down. They are willing to abdicate them. And socialists and progressives are the only ones that have a structural and convinced approach of the importance of these issues. Now, let me challenge you to follow me in Portuguese. Senhoras, caros e caros camaradas, a importância dessas duas prioridades tem claramente a ver com aquilo que elas significam também para a forma como o Estado Social é concretizado, porque são verdadeiramente apostas estruturais em relação àquilo que está em causa. E esse é talvez um dos grandes desafios. You can use mine if you want. E esse é claramente um dos grandes desafios daquilo que está em causa neste momento. É como é que nós fazemos com que o Estado Social deixe de funcionar em modo de bombeiro, em modo de emergência, com a pressão que isso significa em termos de recursos, para uma abordagem estrutural às causas que influenciam aquilo que tem a ver com a vida dos cidadãos. E essa talvez, e há passo à abordagem quanto à abordagem verde, à prioridade verde, é uma dessas perspectivas, mas há outras e esse debate deve ser aprofundado, porque cada vez mais nós seremos confrontados com essa questão. A pressão que uma abordagem em modo de bombeiro coloca sobre os recursos públicos. E têm que ser os socialistas e a família progressista a colocar o debate a este nível. Abordar este assunto de forma estruturada nas suas causas é a boa gestão dos recursos públicos. É a boa gestão das finanças públicas, dos recursos que os governos têm à sua disposição. E nós não podemos deixar que a direita roube essa prioridade que é claramente a prioridade dos progressistas e dos socialistas. Muito obrigado.
Muito bem, muito bem. I can assure you, Claude, that you would co-sign everything he said. And I'm sure that here we all agree with what Vasco said just right now. Now, moving to Evelyn. Evelyn is our Vice President of the Young European Socialists. So my question to you, Evelyn, would be, what challenges do you see for young people, in particular, at this moment? I mean, for instance, which employment and social policies are really needed to uplift and support them, in your point of view? Thank you.
Well, yes, first of all, young people have been hit especially hard by the pandemic and the following crisis, because most of them were in these temporary jobs with not steady contracts, and they soon lost their jobs and they didn't really benefit from social security coverage. This has a huge impact on their current financial situation, but also their mental health. Last year, 2022, was the European Year of Youth, a year to make progress on the post-pandemic economic employment and social recovery of European young people. Because there are still big differences for young people in European member states. So member states really have high youth unemployment, for example, and that is unused potential. If you want to make sure that young people participate in the labor market, that they participate in society, we need to give them the tools and the opportunity to do so. If we want them to deliver on the green and the digital transition, all talents and all young talents need to be employed. This can be done by give young people opportunities on job trainings, quality traineeships who are fairly remunerated, at least at a minimum wage. Give them a clear legal framework at these jobs with enough social security. An important tool are the youth guarantee schemes, the now reinforced youth guarantee schemes that we can use to implement. There we can set this legal framework with clear and binding quality standards for work and quality traineeships. We need to involve youth and their representatives in the decision-making processes And we also need to think about inequality with young people as well, with young women and girls, with young people with disabilities, young people who are already at risk of poverty. So only through quality jobs, decent wages, and banning unpaid traineeships, we can guarantee their effective and sustainable labor market integration and reduction of youth unemployment.
Thank you, Evelyn. I'm sure, well, you must be a bit nervous, I think, but youth is strong and powerful, so don't be afraid to put out your voice. And now we move to Laurent Canguilhomme, President of the French Association Zéro Chômeur de Longue Durée. If I say something like innovative bottom-up approaches are needed if we want to build a better welfare state, I'm sure you will agree. And what I would like to ask you is if you could share a bit of this experience about the zero unemployment zones and how they can combat long-term unemployment in Europe.
Okay. My English is not fluent, so I will speak in French, and you will have an excellent translation. J'ai été député socialiste, donc c'est un grand plaisir que d'avoir répondu à l'invitation de Yonek. Et depuis 7 ans, je n'ai pas assisté à une réunion des socialistes. C'est la première. Alors qu'est-ce que j'ai fait pendant 7 ans? Eh bien, j'ai expérimenté. Parce que le socialisme est né de la volonté d'exercer le droit au travail, c'est-à-dire de permettre à chacun d'avoir un travail digne. Alors j'ai pu le défendre comme vous dans des assemblées, mais nous avons choisi, avec d'autres, d'expérimenter en France, suite à la loi que j'avais portée avec ATD Carmonde et d'autres associations, l'expérimentation territoire zéro chômeur de longue durée. En quoi consiste cette expérimentation? À considérer d'abord qu'il y a un coût du chômage pour la puissance publique. Nous acceptons le coût du chômage pour la puissance publique, mais nous acceptons aussi le chômage et la privation d'emploi. Donc il est temps de relier les deux, car on peut mobiliser le coût du chômage longue durée pour financer une part de l'emploi, et à condition que ces emplois soient nouveaux et reposent sur des activités supplémentaires. C'est redonner du sens au travail, c'est développer des activités dans les territoires dans le domaine de la transition écologique, de l'économie circulaire, des services de proximité ou encore des mobilités alternatives. Nous avons en France lancé 60 territoires qui expérimentent aujourd'hui et qui, pour certains, ont éradiqué le chômage de longue durée. Il n'y a plus de chômage de longue durée dans certains territoires. Pourquoi? Parce que nous avons créé des activités supplémentaires, nous avons embauché ces personnes en contrat à durée indéterminée dans des emplois décents, et surtout nous avons fait avec elles, c'est-à-dire un projet démocratique où on ne fait pas que pour les personnes avec des dispositifs, on fait avec les personnes pour qu'elles puissent être actrices du projet. Ça, c'est très important, et c'est ce que nous avons fait. Ce que je constate, c'est qu'en Europe, il y a beaucoup de discours sur la responsabilité individuelle des personnes, c'est-à-dire le devoir de travailler. Mais il y en a peu sur la responsabilité collective, c'est-à-dire le droit à l'emploi. Et moi, ce que j'aimerais, c'est que demain, les socialistes européens puissent porter cette idée, cette grande idée du droit à l'emploi au niveau européen, en portant et en soutenant, par exemple, la délibération qui a été votée récemment par le Comité européen des régions pour la création d'un fonds d'expérimentation au niveau européen pour financer toutes les expérimentations qui, en Europe, visent à réaliser cet idéal. Et ça me semble essentiel, parce qu'avoir un idéal, c'est bien. Vous savez, on dit que l'expérimentation est aux utopistes ce que le chemin est aux voyageurs. Et bien donc, il faut dessiner de nouveaux chemins pour arriver à cette belle idée qui fait qu'on peut prendre en compte toutes les personnes dans le domaine de l'inclusion, voilà, et partir des personnes. Et donc, territoire zéro chômeur de longue durée, c'est possible en France. On a commencé. Ça existe et ça va commencer à se lancer en Belgique, en Wallonie. Il y a des territoires qui sont proches de ce que nous faisons aux Pays-Bas, en Autriche, et le maire de Rome va lancer 2 territoires bientôt à Rome. Donc nous sommes en train de créer la coalition des acteurs du droit à l'emploi européen et nous allons défendre en tant qu'acteurs de la société civile ce sujet, à vos côtés bien sûr, si vous l'acceptez, et nous espérons pouvoir bénéficier de votre plein et entier soutien à tous les niveaux, au Parlement européen comme dans d'autres instances. Voilà.
Merci bien, Laurent. I know it's very difficult and very tough to give all these good answers in a short period of time because we're running out of time now. But we do have time for the second round. Well, what I will ask you is to be, as brief and concise as possible. So I would go to Tula and ask you something very straight. The European Commission has very recently put forward a proposal for a recommendation to strengthen the social dialogue. And the question is, what do you think the EU can do to promote collective bargaining?
First of all, I think that it is very important that we all work together to promote tripartite or bipartite social dialogue. And it includes also the collective bargaining on national level. I think that we have learned now how important all these structures that strengthen our capability to handle this new crisis. We have had pandemic, now we have war in Ukraine, energy crisis, and then the green and digital transition that will change work, is already changing the world of work. So we need structures that keep ongoing good practices and processes that safeguard the workers. And as we know that we have the single market, and it means also that we have to protect the workers, and we have to build fair labor market for all, for the people, for the working people. And that's why we need to strengthen the social dialogue in Europe. And as I said, this will strengthen the stability, predictability, it will enforce economy and make all of us better lives for us. So I would like to underline the need when we are drafting the legislation, recommendations, that we also trust the role of trade unions as the organizations that have the right to conduct collective bargaining on behalf of workers. And the minimum wage is a good benchmark of it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And now, Claude, we witness more and more new forms of work that bypass social protection. And a platform work, for instance, is one of these situations. What should be done in your view?
Luxembourg has a very strong position about platform work. So, first of all, let me explain. Bon, je vais continuer en français. D'abord, je vais présenter rapidement le système de sécurité sociale au Luxembourg, parce que je crois que c'est important de comprendre. Au Luxembourg, les indépendants, les salariés, tout le monde est affilié à la sécurité sociale. Toutes les catégories d'âge donc sont affiliées à la sécurité sociale. On a même des projets que, par exemple, pour des personnes sans abri ou des personnes sans domicile fixe, au niveau d'une couverture universelle de sécurité sociale, tout le monde peut donc aussi, même s'il n'a pas de domicile fixe, s'affilier. Et le changement au niveau de la sécurité sociale entre indépendants et salariés, il n'y a pas d'obstacle. Donc, tout le monde est libre de le faire au niveau de la sécurité sociale. Je crois que ça, c'est déjà un point très important. Maintenant, en ce qui concerne le fonctionnement au niveau de la directive ou des réflexions des travailleurs de plateforme, platform workers ou platform work, je crois qu'il faudrait un cadre social strict qu'il faut imposer aussi aux entreprises qui pratiquent ce genre je dirais d'économie. Ça va un peu à contresens de ce que je viens de dire auparavant avec l'économie, avec des entreprises sociale. Donc, pour cadrer, donc, le Luxembourg on est en train d'élaborer un projet de loi qui est même en voie législative, pour avoir un cadre strict au niveau de ces plateformes pour vraiment cadrer le système social pour ces personnes. Parce que je crois, et je vais donc terminer rapidement, je crois qu'il faut au niveau européen des politiques qui sont centrées sur des personnes auxquelles on peut garantir pour toutes les transitions numériques ou transitions vertes que le droit de travail, aussi les aspects sociaux primordialement, soient respectés. Je crois, comme ça, on est au niveau européen sur un play field level pour chacun, un même pied d'égalité.
Thank you so much. And another challenge has to do with carbon neutrality. And you have said also this on many occasions that this can bring different challenges for different regions. So how do we avoid creating new inequalities, new regional inequalities to achieve carbon neutrality at the same time?
Well, I'm strongly convinced that the answer lies in cohesion policy. Not a cohesion policy that does not live up to the new challenges, and some of them are these ones, but a renewed, updated, better cohesion policy that can address those issues too. The European Commission has presented recently the 8th report on cohesion, the 8th cohesion report. And there are some interesting things that we can learn from that report. First, the disparities are becoming more complex. It's not only a question between north, south, east, west, no. You have, within the same territory, you have communities that are diverging. So it's becoming more complex. Second issue, the report points out something that I think it's very, very interesting. It's the development trap. And you can notice that in some regions, what is happening right now. They have somehow stagnated. They cannot maintain the same level of growth, of development that they had in the recent past. Yeah. Why do I think that Europe has more and higher responsibilities addressing the disparities that can result from those policies? Because this is probably the most evident situation where disparities result from Europe implementing policies, and not only from Europe addressing situations of disparities that already exist. So it's more important and politically more dangerous, if I may say so, that Europe lives up to this task, to address and solve the disparities that its own policies, the implementation of its own policies can create. The answer for me lies in cohesion policy. Thank you.
Very good. I completely agree with you. Haveline, you know that the European Parliament has very recently called on the EU to ban unpaid internship. And why is this so important for young people who are just entering now the labor market? Very short.
Well, when we want to tackle youth unemployment and when we want to tackle young people in poverty, and then we give them unpaid internships, that's of course not going to help them. It worsens their financial security and it worsens their mental health. It also deepens inequality because you see there are people that don't have a backup from families or relatives, that don't have savings, and they simply cannot afford to work for free. that's why it's very important to have these clear contracts with at least the minimum wage and a very clear social security behind them. Because sometimes one internship follows after another and another. That doesn't give them clear career perspective, that doesn't give them hope, that doesn't help them to integrate in the labor market. That's why all these reasons we need to think of. That's why it's so important to ban these unpaid internships, because this makes it a much higher cost for society than paid internships themselves.
Thank you so much. And finally, and I think we will, respect the 30 minutes that were given for this panel. The last question for Laurent, and sorry for being so worried about, the time and being more worried, more concerned being a moderator than giving you time. And I know that at the end there will be lots of things to be said, but this is just a flavor of how rich it is, your thoughts on your insights and the things you have to deliver to us. What role could the European Union play in supporting initiatives such as, for instance, the territoire zéro chômage de longue durée?
C'est assez simple et je vais être rapide. Il suffit de mettre en place un fonds d'expérimentation européen doté de plusieurs centaines de millions d'euros, mais en sachant que le coût du chômage longue durée pour les États européens, ce sont des centaines de milliards d'euros, car il y a des dépenses directes, mais il y a aussi toutes les dépenses indirectes et les coûts pour la santé publique également, des personnes qui sont privées durablement d'emploi. Et ce fonds pourrait justement financer des expérimentations allant dans le sens du droit à l'emploi pour les personnes les plus éloignées de l'emploi, avec un emploi digne, et en mettant comme condition que ces activités soient non concurrentielles avec des activités existantes dans les territoires concernés. Et c'est ainsi que nous aurons une condition pour réaliser notre idéal commun, qui est celui de redonner de la dignité aux personnes qui, hélas, n'ont plus beaucoup d'espérance. Et je crois que c'est possible. Il suffit d'essayer. Voilà.
Thank you. So we've finished here our panel. Let me ask for a big round of applause to our wonderful speakers. Thank you. Thank you so much. And I can't help feeling that we are making history. We were 2 years ago, and we continue to do so. Thank you so much for your attention.
Como base da sua missão enquanto comissário está a necessidade de dignidade, justiça e prosperidade para todos os europeus. Minhas senhoras e meus senhores, sob o mote "Os socialistas cumprem", é tempo de ouvirmos as palavras de Nicolas Schmit, comissário europeu para o emprego e os direitos sociais. Ladies and gentlemen, under the motto Socialists Deliver, it's time to hear from Nicolas Schmit, European Commissioner for Jobs and Social Rights.
Dear Prime Minister, dear Antonio, dear Stefan, dear friends. Now I'm a bit in a difficult position because a lot has been said about what we have achieved and about what we still have to achieve. It is important, obviously, to remind what has been done. And I think we have done a lot during this mandate. But what has been done has not been done like that. It has been done because the socialists all over Europe have supported, have asked for it. I remember I was in Göteborg. It was a very important moment where finally this new dynamic of social Europe was launched. But there were only principles. There were no actions yet. And the actions came thanks to Antonio, because Antonio said, we will have this Porto Summit, and we will really launch social Europe and set social Europe on a very solid ground, not just for today, but especially also for tomorrow. And that's the commitment which was taken in Porto, and that's the commitment we repeat today in Porto. Dear Antonio, I think you have shown that there is a socialist alternative that works, because austerity hasn't worked. Neoliberalism hasn't worked. What they have produced is many people without employment, many people in poverty. You have shown that social democratic policies, solidarity, social innovation, Anna, as you have presented it, they are not the product of dreams. They are the product of concrete policies made by socialists and social democrats. That's what we need now. And you have won the election. And you have won the election. And I'm sure, well, I'm coming from the center of Europe. So we were very much looking to the Nordic model, Stefan. Very much inspired by the Nordic model. But now we have to look to the Iberian model, the social policies which are developed in Portugal and Spain with success, showing that you can have a strong economy, an innovation economy, an economy based on solidarity, and at the same time, social policies which really try to leave nobody behind. And that's our aim. Dear comrades, so we have to look certainly a bit backwards on what has been achieved, and it has been said, so I will not, because we are running out of time, and that's always a big problem for me. So we have to look ahead and we have to look forward. So what remains to be done? And also here we have very good indication. First, we have two important presidencies. We still can achieve a lot under these two important presidencies, the Spanish one and the Belgian one. There are still important issues on our table. The platform economy, we have to find an agreement. It cannot be that platform workers are without social protection. It cannot be that platform workers have no social protection and no labor rights. This is not possible. I heard now what has been said by this young lady. Well, yes, there are thousands and thousands of young people in Europe who are working, but they are not told that they are working. They are in so-called traineeships, but they are concretely doing real work. They are bringing in their talent, they are bringing in their knowledge, they have learned, and they are not paid. And for socialists, there cannot be work without decent pay. This is not possible. So we are working on that, and I hope that we will come before the end of this mandate with a very solid proposal that traineeships have to be paid, that they have to be of quality, and that they are opening to these young people the way to a decent, good, quality job. That's the aim of traineeship, and not just to be exploited and to have a job without pay. Dear friends, I would just mention 3 areas where we have to work on for the next election. Because it's important to have done a good job and to explain that you have a good job. But at the end, it's about the future people are deciding. It's about the confidence, as Anna has said. If you can produce with the voters the real confidence we need to continue the work which has been started with the support of the socialists in the European Parliament and the socialist governments in the Council. 3 main issues. The first one is the world of work. We are socialists. Our friends are the trade unionists. Our friends are those who every morning have to go to work. And this work is changing. There are a lot of good jobs, but there are also a lot of bad jobs. And we have to change that. We have done a very important reform with a minimum wage. we have initiated something very important on collective bargaining. And I am really fascinated by the fact that what Anna has said, that you have now made the link, which has been mentioned, well, there cannot be money without the respect of the law. There cannot be money without the respect of decent social conditions and decent pay. And decent pay doesn't mean only decent minimum wage. It means collective bargaining. It means the right of workers in the companies. It means more democracy in the companies. So this is the world of work. We have to rebuild it because technology goes fast. There will be jobs disappearing. And we have to make sure that the workers who feel, and here is a good example, that their job might disappear, that they will find a new job, a decent job, a quality job, that we invest in their knowledge, in their talent, for the young and also for those who are a bit less young. So skills are fundamental. We have the year of skills. We will have the next decades of skills we need to give workers the right and good and solid perspective. Now, that's the world of work. There's a lot to do there. We cannot accept that algorithms are just managing people, that people do not know how and who is managing them. We have to create the right framework for algorithms. That's about platform, but it's about many other companies where algorithms are instruments of control of workers who do not know, who do not understand, who do not know how these algorithms have been programmed. This is something we cannot accept. That's against the principle of democracy. That's a great danger for the social rights, the labor rights we have achieved during decades and even more. So that's the first point, the world of work. The second one, we have to show all our commitment with transition and especially fighting climate change. We feel and know that the bomb is ticking and that time is short. So we cannot put that into question. We have to continue on that. Climate change, yes, climate change creates disruptions, as, by the way, technology creates disruptions. And here we have to be offensive. There cannot be a good transition without a social transition, without a just transition, without giving people the trust that we care and we take their concerns very, very serious. So our fight has to be on just and fair and transition. This means that the workers who lose their jobs have to be supported. It means also that households who have to pay more have to be supported. This means also that the middle classes, which really compose our society and contribute to the democracy, that the middle class does not have the feeling of declassification, that just for themselves, and especially their kids, things are just going down. This is something we have to do. This is possible. I think climate change is an enormous opportunity. And Stefan knows about what's going on in northern Sweden, how the region is developing thanks to new technologies, green technologies, producing green steel. And that's the industrial part of it. I think the Commission has launched the Clean Industry Act. We have to build on that. Europe needs a strong, competitive, innovative industry, green industry, not polluting, not emitting CO2. Decarbonizing our industry is an enormous challenge, but it's also an enormous opportunity to be more competitive. And the third issue is about those who have been forgotten, those who are excluded, those who have the precarious jobs, the millions, and it has been said, the women in the hospitals, in the care institutions, all those who have low wages for high investment of their time and their pain. We have seen it during the COVID. We see it every day. And these are the groups of population we really have to support. The Commission has launched a very important, in my sense, a very important initiative on long-term care. We have to translate the long-term care into reality. We have to work with member states on the care issue. We are an aging society, and we have to keep this aging society together, and we have to respect those who are at the front, at the first front of this aging society, especially those women, 90% of them, who really take care every day of those who have lost. And finally, dear friends, there is, the children. I think children that's a very common formula. Children are our future. And despite of that, 1 child out of 5 in Europe is exposed to a risk of poverty. And I have listened to what has been said on the implementation of the child guarantee. We did it together with Anna. We passed it during the Portuguese presidency. Now it's about implementation. Portugal gives the right example. Spain gives a good example, many others. But we also know that Europe has to give a good example. We have to invest more European money into children, into education, into good childcare, into good institutions, into, finally, equal opportunities for all children, meaning for all Europeans. And that's our value, a society of equal opportunities. That's what we have to fight for. And if we manage to do that clearly, with clear messages, I'm confident for next June. Thank you.
Os parlamentos são, muitas vezes, os epicentros das conquistas sociais. Seguindo para mais uma intervenção subordinada à epígrafe "Os socialistas cumprem", minhas senhoras e meus senhores, chamo a vossa atenção para as palavras de Ates Kuiken, líder do Partido do Trabalho dos Países Baixos. Ladies and gentlemen, I call your attention for the words of Ates Kuiken, leader of the Labour Party of the Netherlands.
Boa tarde, hola. It's always nice to hear my own voice or a name translated in English, and Portuguese is even more nice. So thank you for that. Dear Prime Minister Costa, dear President Leuven, and dear Commissioner Schmid, thank you for your energetic start of these speeches. And dear friends of PES Portugal, what an honor it is to stand here in front of you. And I would like to start with thanking Antonio for hosting this event. And this morning I visit Matosinhos near Porto and see some social projects going on. And it makes it clear how necessary, but also what good work your government is doing here. So thank you for that. After Gothenburg in 2017, our political family once again put social rights where they belong, at the heart of Europe. And this social forum comes at a very important time. Because of the consequences of Russia's invasion in Ukraine, the price of energy and food has gone through the roofs and almost risen everywhere, making the biggest worry of Europeans today simply making the end of the month. Almost a year ago, our Dutch Minister of Finance said that inflation will make us all a little bit poorer. But as Social Democrats, we know this is not the case. We know that the people with the lowest income pay the highest price. Nurses, cleaners, bus drivers, already being paid the minimum. Economists have warned for the consequences of the so-called wage price spiral, claiming higher wages lead to higher inflation. But it is no surprise these warnings did not go to the big corporation that took advantage of this crisis. by driving up prices more than their costs justify. Grabflation, the Dutch unions now call it, grabflations. With the result that profits of supermarkets have gone up, while the salaries of those stocking the shelves remain the same. That shows that we need to share the burden or more equality in times of inflation, with fair taxes for companies making big money, as well as good pay and working conditions for all workers. In recent years, some important steps have already been taken due to work of Agnes Jongerius, Nicolas Schmid, and of other leaders in the Council. There are rules for minimum wages for all workers in the European Union, and that deserves an applause. There's a child and youth guarantee. And thanks to the Porto Summit 2 years ago, we now have clear targets for employment and quality of job creation. This makes a difference in the lives of people every day. But big challenges still remain. Let me name 3 topics that I believe we should focus on. First of all, fairer Europe cannot become a reality without the results on flexible work. We need to stay firm and make an end to bogus self-employment for around 5.5 million working inside the European Union as platform workers. I know that all parties here today are working hard to come to a position in the Council soon, and I hope so, because it's necessary. And it is so important because zero-hour contracts do not give people freedom. It gives people stress, insecurity, and unfair workloads. Secondly, and this point is related, every European should have access to social protection. In the Netherlands, more than 1 million people, 1 million, are self-employed without personnel. Most of them poorly insured against sickness and don't accrue pension. My party is working hard with the Greens to ensure that accruing pension will be mandatory for everyone, and with success. But in line with the European pillar, a proper safety net should also be available for every European worker. Every person that works on a whatever contract should have full access to social protection. And it should be that simple. And thirdly, and my last point, building on the climate fund, we need to set up green work guarantee funds. I believe that the energy transition is an opportunity to create new, high-quality jobs. But it is also true that some jobs will change or even disappear. And we cannot abandon these people. These are our people. That's why we need green guarantee funds in order for our workers in the member states and with the support of the European Commission are paid in full while they transition to green industries. Dear friends, in many ways, the Green Deal offers us a blueprint. The Green Deal works because it does not only include laws on green policies itself, but also set targets for transport, energy, and taxes. The same should go for the principles on the European social pillar. We need a social deal. With every new law, we need to ask ourselves what the effects are on people, on workers, and how those proposals contribute to the social targets we set in Gothenburg and in Porto. Without the work of our political family, these social targets would never have seen the daylight. Let's now make it a reality in the daily lives of all European people. Thank you so much.
O sucesso de um compromisso depende da capacidade em transformar as promessas partidárias em realizações concretas dos executivos e legisladores. Minhas senhoras e meus senhores, para encerrar este segmento subjacente à máxima "os socialistas cumprem", ouçamos agora João Torres, secretário-geral adjunto do Partido Socialista Português e vice-presidente do Grupo Parlamentar do Partido Socialista Português. Ladies and gentlemen, let us now hear from João Torres, Deputy Secretary-General of the Portuguese Socialist Party and Vice-President of the Parliamentary Group of the Portuguese Socialist Party.
Minhas caras camaradas e caros camaradas, estimadas e estimados amigos, caro Comissário Europeu, cara Presidente do Partido Trabalhista holandês, permitam-me que saúde todas e todos os presentes nas pessoas do Secretário-Geral do Partido Socialista e do Presidente do Partido Socialista Europeu, que acolhemos em Portugal com muito gosto uma vez mais. Em boa hora, a Presidência Portuguesa do Conselho da União Europeia organizou em 2021 a Cimeira Social do Porto com o mote Tempo de Agir. Hoje, passados 2 anos, na altura vivíamos ainda com a máscara tantas vezes no nosso rosto, mas hoje, passados 2 anos, marcados por transformações tão profundas, destacando-se a guerra na Ucrânia, a maior inflação das últimas décadas em território europeu, esta expressão tempo de agir ganha um novo sentido, esta expressão tempo de agir ganha um sentido verdadeiramente reforçado. Um sentido transversal quanto à necessidade de ponderarmos sobre as políticas públicas que temos de continuar a seguir e um sentido de urgência para dar resposta aos desafios cada vez mais complexos com os quais os Estados-membros da União Europeia e as suas sociedades se confrontam. Este momento desta sessão é especialmente importante para o Partido Socialista em Portugal, porque adota a designação de os socialistas cumprem, e é isso que nós aqui em Portugal temos feito, e não é por acaso que uma das nossas mensagens-chave para com as portuguesas e os portugueses é de que juntos seguimos e cumprimos, e juntos seguimos e continuaremos a cumprir o nosso programa eleitoral sufragado em janeiro de 2022. É tempo de agir também em relação, muito concretamente, às metas ambiciosas que a União Europeia traçou para o ano de 2030 em matéria de emprego, em matéria de formação ou em matéria de combate à pobreza e à exclusão social. Em Portugal nós estamos fortemente comprometidos com o projeto europeu e estamos fortemente comprometidos com as metas que foram definidas nestes domínios. Em matéria de emprego, por exemplo, a União Europeia deve reduzir para metade a diferença entre as taxas de emprego de homens e mulheres, com base em 2019, um objetivo que Portugal já cumpriu, tendo esta diferença sido reduzida em quase 3 vezes, de 1,5% para 0,6%. Os governos socialistas, liderados por António Costa, alcançaram nos últimos anos um equilíbrio virtuoso. Contas públicas em ordem, com déficits controlados e redução da dívida pública, em conjugação, o que é absolutamente decisivo para os socialistas, com políticas sociais ativas e dinâmicas que visam reduzir as assimetrias sociais e económicas, alavancar, como aqui foi bem referido, a igualdade de oportunidades, tornar efetiva e material essa igualdade de oportunidades, assim como melhorar os rendimentos dos trabalhadores, melhorar os salários e as pensões. E esse é um dos nossos grandes compromissos eleitorais e estamos focados em dar seguimento a essas políticas verdadeiramente progressistas. Neste último ano foi possível avançar com novas medidas da maior importância no nosso país do ponto de vista social, como, por exemplo, a gratuitidade universal das creches. E sabemos bem em Portugal da importância da aposta e do investimento contínuos no conhecimento e nas qualificações. Hoje, Portugal está praticamente em linha com a meta europeia, prevista também para 2030, de redução da taxa de jovens entre os 15 e os 29 anos que não estão empregados, nem a estudar, nem a frequentar qualquer formação, a tantas vezes designada geração nem. Eis um outro exemplo de um número ou de uma estatística que reflete bem o compromisso do PS e o compromisso do governo português com estas metas da maior importância para nós. Minhas caras camaradas, meus caros camaradas, eu referi alguns indicadores que simbolizam bem o compromisso dos socialistas portugueses para com o pilar social, para com a agenda que foi definida há 2 anos e que poderá ser refletida não apenas hoje, como também amanhã, num evento organizado a nível europeu, aqui justamente na região do Porto. Mas Portugal teve um primeiro-ministro e o PS teve um secretário-geral que hoje desempenha funções como secretário-geral das Nações Unidas e que dizia muitas vezes que as pessoas não são números. As pessoas têm direitos, devem ter mais direitos e direitos reforçados. E a verdade é que, mais do que referir números, apesar dos números, de estatísticas desmentirem a cada dia que passa aquela que é a narrativa da oposição em relação ao governo português e em relação ao Partido Socialista, e tenho também bem presente o nível de agressividade que o centro-direita, a direita e a extrema-direita hoje utilizam para combater os socialistas, não apenas em Portugal, não apenas em Espanha, onde também desempenhamos funções executivas, como em todos os Estados-membros da União Europeia, mesmo onde cumprimos a nossa responsabilidade na oposição. Mas a mensagem fundamental que eu gostaria de passar ou de partilhar convosco é a seguinte: em Portugal, os portugueses conhecem bem a diferença entre uma governação socialista e uma governação de direita e conservadora. E sim, o PS tem feito a diferença em Portugal, mesmo com as dificuldades que a inflação coloca às famílias e mesmo com as dificuldades que essa mesma inflação, ou mesmo com os desafios que essa mesma inflação impõe à governação. Apesar da nossa oposição aqui em Portugal nos acusar de empobrecimento, uma oposição que não olha a meios para atingir os seus fins, estamos hoje no pelotão da frente do crescimento económico, que queremos que seja verde e inclusivo. Somos capazes de gerar novas políticas de apoio social, conjunturais e estruturais, como a prestação garantia para a infância para combater a pobreza infantil, como referiu o Sr. Comissário. E segundo as estatísticas mais recentes também, nunca a taxa de risco de pobreza ou exclusão social foi tão reduzida no nosso país, em parte também pelo empenho e pelo mérito da nossa Ministra do Trabalho, que hoje acompanha também esta conferência e nela participou. Minhas caras amigas e meus caros amigos, é com o PS que a economia portuguesa tem gerado mais e melhores postos de trabalho. Nunca em Portugal houve tantas pessoas empregadas e, como também já hoje aqui foi referido, aprovamos recentemente a Agenda do Trabalho Digno, porque o combate à precariedade é um combate que deve ser travado de forma incessante pelos socialistas, consumando uma evolução significativa e positiva dos direitos dos trabalhadores. Em 2023, o Partido Socialista, com muito gosto vos acolhe, celebra 50 anos desde a sua fundação. Recebemos, a 23 de abril deste ano, o Presidente do Partido Socialista Europeu, numa grande celebração popular, aqui bem perto, no Porto, que tivemos o orgulho de acolher. No mesmo local onde, décadas atrás, socialistas de toda a Europa se reuniram com o PS português para apoiar o seu ideal de adesão à União Europeia. O PS, como sabem, é um caso único no panorama europeu, um partido fundado por mulheres e homens livres, num outro país, a Alemanha, quando então enfrentávamos uma ditadura. E esse traço distintivo da nossa história é também uma marca da nossa identidade e uma marca que vai passando de geração em geração. Nós reconhecemos a essencialidade, a importância fundamental do multilateralismo, da cooperação, da solidariedade internacional. E desejamos e ajudamos a construir, hoje, uma Europa mais próspera e inclusiva. Como socialistas, nós não podemos deixar ninguém ficar para trás. Temos a consciência de que há muito trabalho pela frente e de que as nossas organizações, as organizações membro do Partido Socialista Europeu, têm um grande trabalho coletivo pela frente. É nosso dever renovar e reforçar a ambição de uma Europa ao serviço das pessoas, valorizando a segurança e a paz, o combate às alterações climáticas ou o Estado social. Mas é nossa responsabilidade também rejeitar e derrotar os extremismos, os radicalismos e os populismos que ameaçam os valores europeus e dividem os cidadãos da União Europeia, fomentando o egoísmo e o individualismo, ou mesmo usando o medo como uma arma de arremesso política. Caras e caros camaradas, a visão e a concretização de uma Europa solidária dependem de nós e da nossa capacidade coletiva de, como socialistas, nos mobilizarmos e mobilizarmos os outros pelas nossas causas. Porque para nós não existe União Europeia sem uma efetiva Europa social. Muito obrigado.
Daqui a um ano, os cidadãos da União Europeia serão, mais uma vez, chamados a escolher que Europa querem. Neste terceiro painel, focar-nos-emos no tema Rumo a 2024, uma prioridade social por uma Europa mais justa. Chamo então ao palco a moderadora Vera Brás, deputada à Assembleia da República de Portugal e secretária nacional do Partido Socialista. I call to the stage the moderator Vera Brás, member of the National Parliament of Portugal and National Secretary of the Portuguese Socialist Party. Para completarem o painel, peço que subam ao palco. To complete the panel, I ask to join the stage Francisco André, Oliver Ropke, Pedro Marques, Estrela Durá Ferrandiz.
Can you do that, please? Yeah, thank you. Okay. Welcome to all of you. Let me start, I will start in Portuguese if you don't mind, just saying that we will only have one round. As you know, our time is running, so forgive me. Boa tarde a todos, dar naturalmente as boas-vindas aos nossos oradores, agradecer a sua participação, mas também a quem nos acompanha, não só aqui como online, e por se manterem neste terceiro painel e neste terceiro momento, que será mais uma importante reflexão e partilha. Tivemos um primeiro painel em que falámos das nossas lutas, dos nossos desafios na Europa, um segundo painel em que falámos como é importante reforçar o Estado Social, falámos como os socialistas cumprem e chegou agora a hora de nos dirigirmos a 2024, em que a qualidade dos serviços públicos, a existência de parceiros sociais fortes e níveis elevados de proteção dos nossos trabalhadores, dos nossos cidadãos, são o centro das sociedades europeias e da nossa prosperidade. À medida que unimos esforços para avançar numa transição verde e digital, as questões sociais devem sempre manter-se enquanto prioridade. Neste painel, os nossos oradores terão a oportunidade de partilhar o seu trabalho junto da sociedade civil e dos parceiros internacionais, numa constante tentativa de reunir apoios em busca de uma Europa mais justa. Francisco, começo por ti. Não poderíamos deixar de falar da invasão da Ucrânia pela Rússia, que tem terríveis consequências para os ucranianos, mas em que as suas repercussões vão muito para além das fronteiras do país, nomeadamente no que diz respeito ao aumento dos custos de vida. Assim, o que poderemos fazer para chegar àquelas que são as pessoas mais vulneráveis e como poderemos ajudá-las a ultrapassar esta crise?
Obrigado, Vera. Boa tarde e boa tarde a todos. Em primeiro lugar, uma primeira nota para distinguir que muitas vezes ouvimos falar de um conflito ou de uma crise e aquilo que nós estamos a verificar, a presenciar neste momento muito triste da nossa história, não é uma crise ou um mero conflito, é uma invasão que é bárbara, selvagem, injustificada, ilegal da Rússia à Ucrânia. E falo num momento-chave da vida da Ucrânia, quando a Ucrânia decidiu também escolher o caminho do espaço europeu, o espaço onde se promovem e respeitam valores democráticos, onde se respeitam e promovem direitos humanos. Isso leva-nos a apoiar cada vez mais a Ucrânia e a apoiar naquilo que tem que ser o reflexo e a implementação prática do que é o Estado Social Europeu, naquilo que é a nossa marca fundamental, que que é a forma como nós tratamos os mais vulneráveis. E, portanto, uma primeira resposta naquilo que é o apoio à Ucrânia, da forma que todos temos vindo a presenciar e que a Europa tem dado essa resposta, tal como Portugal, no acolhimento de refugiados, no apoio militar, no apoio político ou no apoio financeiro. Mas também uma resposta que tem que estar centrada naquela que é a solidariedade interna dentro do espaço europeu. E essa solidariedade interna tem que se centrar naqueles que mais sofrem e que, sobretudo, que mais estão a sofrer com estas consequências do aumento dos custos da energia ou do aumento do preço dos elementos. Portanto, é preciso ter a coragem e, sobretudo, a responsabilidade de ter uma resposta europeia em linha com aquela que tem sido a resposta nacional aqui em Portugal. Mais apoios financeiros às famílias, apoios financeiros na habitação, apoios financeiros na energia, ou também apoios financeiros ou adaptação das regras fiscais para reduzir a pressão sobre os consumidores, como é o caso do IVA zero sobre os alimentos. Mas esta solidariedade que nós queremos que esteja interna tem que ser também fora do espaço europeu. E a Europa, como há pouco aqui foi dito, é uma Europa que defende o multilateralismo e uma convivência cada vez mais para uma prosperidade partilhada entre todos. E, portanto, nós não nos limitamos a apoiar a Ucrânia ou a dar uma resposta dentro do nosso espaço, temos que trabalhar também para dar uma resposta em todos aqueles que fora da Europa sofrem com as consequências desta guerra, sobretudo aqueles que sofrem no continente africano, com o aumento dos preços da energia, dos alimentos ou dos fertilizantes. E é por isso que a segurança alimentar, o combate ao aumento da pobreza que tem sido causada por esta guerra, tem que estar também no centro daquela que é a resposta internacional da União Europeia a este conflito, a apoiar as Nações Unidas, a apoiar os esforços do Secretário-Geral das Nações Unidas sobre os corredores de cereais e a apoiar, sobretudo, esta iniciativa para permitir escoar os cereais para os países que deles mais necessitam.
Muito obrigada, Francisco. Solidariedade, penso que será a grande palavra. Oliver, I will now, from this side, what role do civil society and social partners play in advancing a fair, more social Union European?
Yes, thank you very much. I know we are running out of time, but 30 seconds, I really have to thank those colleagues and comrades who are here and who actually initiated all this process, starting with the Gothenburg Summit with the European Pillar of Social Rights, Stefan Löfven, then Antonio Costa with the Porto Summit, Ana Mendes Godinho. I think this shows that we created a momentum and the momentum is still alive. It's so important. Thank you very much for this. To your question, what can civil society and social dialogue, social partners deliver? Actually, I would propose make the reality test, the reality check. And I can speak about the European Economic and Social Committee. I took office as president only 4 weeks ago. But if you look back to all the initiatives that were presented by the Portuguese government, but then by the Commission, then you can see that they were broadly and strongly supported by civil society and by at least most of the social partners. So we issued our opinions on the minimum wage directive, on the social pillar, on the action plan, but also on other initiatives that are in the pipeline now, like democracy at work, for example. And all those initiatives have been supported by civil society. We work in the mode of consensus, so we try to find consensus in the Economic and Social Committee. But despite of this, and we have employers, we have trade unions, NGOs, despite of this, we were always supportive. So I think this shows that civil society plays a crucial role, and of course, social dialogue and social partners as well. And I think therefore it is so key to strengthen social dialogue, collective bargaining, but also civil dialogue. And here, since I don't have a second round, I would like to focus on one point. We are talking about EU, we have the elections next year, but let's not forget those who are in the waiting room. Countries, candidate countries, waiting for years. Many of them have still a long way to go. The Western Balkans, Ukraine, Moldova, but they are already, they have to adapt. They have to adapt their systems not only to the single market, but also to European social standards. So therefore, I think it's so important to set the European Pillar of Social Rights as a European standard which goes beyond the European Union, and to help now also civil society, social partners in candidate countries. We are trying this. This is one of my key priority, that we involve already civil society, so also employers' organizations, social dialogue of candidate countries in our daily work. I think it is important because only like this we can build up robust structures in those countries, and we can prevent that shrinking space for civil society is growing in many countries. Unfortunately also in the EU, but also beyond the EU. And I think here we have to make a clear signal. This is always shrinking space for civil society, threats to democracy and fundamental rights will always lead to shrinking space for trade unions and for workers' rights. So therefore we have to be very, very careful. We have to support progressive forces in those countries, but also civil society organizations. This is one of our key priorities, and I think this should be our message also to our sister parties in those countries. I think they have to be really careful, and they have to support all initiatives to bring their standards to the standards and to the targets of the European Pillar of Social Rights. I think then we can really set a positive signal, a positive example, which is also very important for the elections next year, that they will be successful for progressive and pro-European parties. We are fighting for this, and of course I'm also, and we are all allies in the civil society and within the trade union family.
Thank you, Oliver. Civil society and social dialogue must be in the center of the action, right? So, Pedro, pergunto-te a ti, olá, estamos aqui hoje reunidos enquanto família política. Qual a nossa força? O que é que nos permitirá avançar em direção a uma Europa mais justa? E tal como já foi aqui referido, teremos as eleições em 2024 e aproveito também para te perguntar qual a melhor forma de comunicarmos aqueles que são os sucessos que já foram alcançados, mas também as prioridades que definirão a nossa ação.
Obrigado. Eu também tenho que agradecer ao António e ao Stefan. No fundo, neles agradeço a todo o Partido Socialista Europeu e ao Partido Socialista Português, não só a organização deste evento, mas a energia que permitiu fazer Gotemburgo e depois fazer o Porto. E, claro, no Nicolás e na Ana tenho que agradecer a energia que permitiu fazer o Porto, fazer o plano de ação do Porto e fazer agora a execução desse plano e chegarmos aqui a este Fórum Social. Isso é muito importante porque é o que combinámos na altura e é o que temos feito para implementar. E é exatamente isso que temos que fazer agora, assumir a paternidade e a maternidade daquilo que, de facto, fizemos nestes anos, para nos apresentarmos aos eleitores. A diretiva dos salários mínimos. Essa diretiva tem a marca da nossa família política e de mais nenhuma. O trabalho que estamos a fazer para chegar a um acordo, que é uma luta enorme, mas vamos ter que chegar a um acordo para os direitos dos trabalhadores das plataformas digitais. É uma luta do Nicolás, é uma luta desta família política já implementada no nosso país com legislação própria. Saindo especificamente dos nossos legislação da área social, deixa-me falar também do Next Gen EU. O Next Gen EU tem a nossa marca. É claro que agora todos assumem a paternidade da ideia, mas vamos lá lembrar-nos o que dizia a direita europeia, que cá em Portugal é representada pelo PSD e o CDS, da mutualização de dívida para dar uma resposta a qualquer crise europeia. Para eles era uma coisa que nem valia a pena discutir, pois hoje tivemos essa mutualização de dívida e tivemos um enorme instrumento de resposta àquela grande crise que foi o Covid. Essa é uma marca nossa que nós temos que apresentar aos europeus. Agora, não pode ser só falar do que fizemos, nós temos que ter propostas, falaste-me também, perguntaste pela dimensão de comunicação, têm que ser propostas muito simples de explicar aos europeus e que têm que se perceber em toda a Europa, porque de facto vamos fazer 27 campanhas diferentes, mas algumas mensagens devem ser comuns, devem ter a nossa marca. Uma delas é, de certeza, combater a xenofobia e o racismo da extrema-direita. Tem-se falado mais de racismo nesta última semana, a propósito de um evento em Espanha, mas nós temos visto a extrema-direita em toda a Europa a fazer esse caminho. E hoje com muito mais apoio do PPE, do tal partido que em Portugal é representado pelo PSD e o CDS. Esse partido, por causa das eleições da Grécia, por causa das eleições na Itália, por um conjunto de realidades, pela fraqueza que hoje tem no Conselho, esse partido, o PPE, que era, até há pouco tempo, espero eu que volte a ser um grande partido europeu também, embora do centro-direita, hoje aderiu à agenda da extrema-direita, à agenda do racismo, da xenofobia e à agenda também dos nacionalismos, num certo sentido, e até uma agenda contra o Pacto Verde. Até uma agenda contra o Pacto Verde. Já começam a dizer, temos que travar, temos que parar. Ao mesmo tempo que temos as inundações, que temos as ondas de calor pela Europa, pelo mundo, eles dizem, vamos mais devagar. Nós temos que dizer, não. Nós temos que continuar com o Pacto Verde, com força, mas temos que ajudar as pessoas e as empresas. Nós temos que ter um ticket muito forte, um apoio muito forte no nosso próximo programa para as pessoas e para as empresas que são afetadas pela transição, porque há pessoas afetadas pela transição verde e pela transição digital. Então eu acho que nós devemos ser, sim, pelo Pacto Verde, mas sim por um forte apoio, com mais apoio europeu. E temos também que continuar a defender que as nossas sociedades ainda são demasiado desiguais e temos que combater essas desigualdades. Temos que assumir que as nossas sociedades europeias ainda são demasiado desiguais. Ainda temos sistemas de tributação que não são suficientemente justos, ainda não combatemos o suficiente a pobreza e ainda temos sistemas de direitos laborais que precisam de apoiar aqueles que são mais afetados, nomeadamente pela transição digital. Nós podemos fazer essas propostas concretas, mas depois, como dizem os americanos dizem muitas vezes put your money where your mouth is. A Agnes já usou aqui uma expressão parecida hoje. Aqui em Portugal já o estamos a fazer. Aprovámos o plano de ação do Porto e a seguir implementámos a garantia criança aqui em Portugal com apoios diretos às crianças e às famílias em pobreza extrema e com creches gratuitas para todos. Aprovámos a agenda do trabalho digno. E fizemos uma outra coisa, que foi aprovar um acordo de médio prazo para os rendimentos poderem recuperar depois desta crise inflacionista, com competitividade para as empresas e com rendimentos para os trabalhadores. Eu acho, é a última proposta que aqui quero deixar, eu acho que nós devemos inspirar-nos no acordo de há 2 anos do Porto, no acordo tripartido há 2 anos, e neste acordo de médio prazo aqui de Portugal, para, na próxima legislatura, defendermos um grande acordo tripartido europeu para a competitividade das empresas, sim, mas também para os direitos dos nossos trabalhadores. Eles foram muito afetados pela crise inflacionista, nós podemos fazer um acordo tripartido para recuperar qualidade de vida para os nossos trabalhadores depois desta crise inflacionista. Isto parece-me que são coisas que as pessoas compreendem, são coisas simples, são coisas claras e que podem ser parte de uma mensagem a comunicar aos europeus nas eleições. Muito obrigado.
Muito obrigada, Pedro. Certamente que, enquanto família política, criaremos sinergias para combater essas desigualdades, melhorar a qualidade de vida das pessoas, sem nunca esquecer a importância da competitividade da nossa economia. Estrela, I would like you to keep this idea that Pedro spoke about the most important legislative initiative for a more social Europe. For you, what is the most important and how can the green and digital transition impact the European welfare state?
Muchas gracias. Voy a hablar en español. Quiero, por supuesto, dar la enhorabuena y las gracias también al Gobierno portugués por este impulso que está dando y la necesidad, y ya tenemos el compromiso, de continuarlo cada 2 años. Creo que la única forma de verdad de seguir poniendo lo social en el centro de Europa es que aquellos que creemos en ello, y somos la familia socialista, sigamos trabajando y sigamos poniéndolo como el elemento central para el futuro de Europa. La pregunta, cómo estas transiciones verdes, digitales, económicas, que las están habiendo también geopolíticas, el papel de Europa, puede impactar en los estados de bienestar. A mí me gusta plantearlo al revés. Cómo los estados de bienestar, cómo el estado de bienestar y todos los sistemas de bienestar social pueden ayudarnos a transicionar por todos estos caminos. Y de hecho creo que para eso estamos aquí, para asegurar que reforzamos nuestros sistemas de bienestar social, nuestros sistemas públicos, mediante políticas y medidas, ya hemos acordado, enmarcadas en el Pilar Europeo de Derechos Sociales. Por eso estamos aquí. Ahora, es verdad que para construir ese estado de bienestar fuerte necesitamos legislación, pero también financiación y nuevos marcos de gobernanza. Hace poco el Parlamento aprobó el informe del semestre para el año 2023, del que fui ponente, y creo que allí se plantean una serie de ideas centrales, básicas, para realmente transicionar y abordar todos estos retos. Solo quiero mencionar algunas que, por supuesto, se han mencionado aquí ya porque eran prioridades socialistas que conseguimos introducir en el semestre. La idea de que los objetivos sociales deben estar al mismo nivel que los de crecimiento económico, por supuesto. En segundo lugar, que necesitamos un mayor número de objetivos sociales. Y en tercero, también se ha insistido ya mucho, en la necesidad de reformar el marco de gobernanza económica y las reglas fiscales para que realmente los Estados miembros tengan esa flexibilidad necesaria para realmente afrontar las transiciones. Es verdad que la Comisión ha hecho hace poco unas propuestas de reforma que van en esta línea de una mayor flexibilidad, unas sendas individualizadas, pero sigue manteniendo la obligación de mantener un umbral de déficit del 3%, no recoge tampoco la posibilidad, algo que hemos pedido siempre los socialistas, las socialistas, de excluir ciertos tipos de inversiones del cálculo del déficit excesivo, o, por ejemplo, tampoco hay un compromiso claro para diseñar e implementar, por fin, una capacidad fiscal europea. Por lo tanto, tenemos todavía mucho por delante. Otras cosas que hemos defendido, demandado los socialistas y que aquí ya se ha puesto en marcha, la necesidad de avanzar en ese instrumento de evaluación de la convergencia social al alza, que fue en su momento ya introducido una propuesta por España y Bélgica y que, como afortunadamente vienen las presidencias española y luego la belga, quizá sea el mejor momento para avanzar en el diseño de ese procedimiento de ese equilibrio social o, como al señor comisario le gusta más llamarle, marco de convergencia social. Más cosas, un fondo de soberanía y algo que se ha comentado aquí, hablando de transiciones ecológicas, mecanismos de protección social ecológica. El cambio climático nos está afectando a todos y a todas, pero a unos más que a otros y a unos territorios más que a otros y a unas personas más que a otras. Necesitamos protección, nosotros lo hemos llamado mecanismos de protección social ecológica. Por lo tanto, hay mucho que hacer y tengo un minutito más. De todas estas legislaciones legislaciones que necesitamos avanzar, yo quiero señalar algunas porque son las que más he trabajado como eurodiputada socialista. Una que tenemos pendiente de negociación en trílogos, que es la de plataformas, y que esperemos que haya pronto ya una propuesta por parte del Consejo para que empiecen las negociaciones cuanto antes. Dos, otra que se ha quedado en una recomendación y que desde el Parlamento, sin embargo, pedimos que fuera una directiva, la de rentas mínimas. Creo que la única forma de conseguir uno de los objetivos que aquí se establecieron en Porto hace 2 años, reducir el número de personas en pobreza o exclusión social en 15 millones, no se va a lograr si no aprobamos una directiva europea de rentas mínimas. Por lo tanto, esa es importante. Y finalmente, todo lo que tiene que ver con salud y seguridad laboral. Y específicamente lo que tiene que ver con la salud mental de trabajadores y trabajadoras, que se ha visto y se está viendo muy afectada por la transición digital. Desde el teletrabajo al trabajo en plataformas, pero también todos los sistemas de digitalización, automatización y aplicación de inteligencia artificial al contexto laboral, que está teniendo un impacto muy importante, negativo, en la salud mental de los trabajadores. Necesitamos lo que ya hemos pedido muchas veces, directiva de riesgos psicosociales en el contexto laboral y inteligencia artificial, un reglamento de inteligencia artificial en el contexto específico laboral. En definitiva, tenemos mucho camino por delante y creo que la única familia política que va a trabajar por esto somos los socialistas, las socialistas, y tenemos que seguir trabajando por ello. Muchas gracias.
Terminamos assim o nosso painel. Muito obrigada aos nossos oradores pelos vossos contributos, pela vossa partilha. Caminhamos juntos em direção a 2024, conhecendo as nossas lutas, reforçando o nosso Estado social e sempre tendo em vista a busca de uma Europa social justa e coesa. Muito obrigada a todos e o resto de uma boa noite.
A criação do Pilar Europeu dos Direitos Sociais foi estruturante do rumo da União Europeia e a sua concretização tem-se provado determinante para a melhoria das condições de vida dos cidadãos europeus. Aproximamo-nos do fim desta produtiva iniciativa. Momento para ouvirmos as palavras do Presidente do Partido Socialista Europeu. Minhas senhoras e meus senhores, peço o vosso aplauso para Stefan Löfven. Ladies and gentlemen, I ask you to applaud Stefan Löfven.
Thank you very much. First, thank you, Antonio, for organizing the summit again in Porto. I also want to thank Luisa, Maria, Manuel, and Eduardo for the warm welcome here to Porto. Dear friends, thank you all for these interesting discussions and for sharing your thoughts here today. Most of all, thank you for being here tonight, both as speakers but also in the audience, and for participating in this very important conversation about how to build a social Europe for all. And I have to say this makes me very hopeful to see so many people sharing the same values and the same commitment to fighting for social progress. It is also good to remind ourselves from time to time what is possible when we work together. I think socialists might be too shy to brag. We should brag more. We should tell what we actually have done so that we can feel self-confident in our way forward. Now, since 2017, with the foundation of the pillar, and since 2019, we have shown more concretely that we can pass social legislation that seemed completely impossible only a few years ago. Policies that concretely and tangibly improve the lives of European citizens on minimum wage and collective bargaining. We have the youth guarantee, the child guarantee, the SURE instrument, the Pay Transparency Directive, and much more. I will not list them all again, but you know them. You all have fought for them because we have worked hard to see all of this happen. So what we do is that we continue moving the needle of what is possible as we advocate now for inviolable social rights, good quality jobs, high levels of social protection, and a society free of discrimination and prejudice for all. It is now important to effectively communicate both our achievements in this European mandate, but also our vision for the coming 5 years. We know that Europeans want the EU to be more proactive in the domain of social and employment affairs. They want EU-level protection to be a shield against unemployment, against austerity and deregulation, a factor instead of convergence, and an anchor to support their national fights. So a strong result in the European Parliament election will be the basis for our political family to deliver on and even surpass the ambitious targets that we have set ourselves. Despite our significant achievement, there is so much still to be done. We need real protection from unemployment and precariousness, as well as strong social investments that ensure that nobody is left behind in this green transition. So it's upskilling, it's reskilling, it is lifelong learning that will pave the way towards a future of high-quality green and digital jobs. And at the same time, the general world of work is changing. So we need to be more proactive, address new challenges as they arise. We need to ensure the right to disconnect and a right to human supervision in the face of emerging technologies like the artificial intelligence. We urgently need to bring down the cost of living, improve working conditions and pay, because we cannot tolerate a society where workers are constantly towing the line to poverty and burnout. Essential workers in our public services bore the brunt of the pandemic crisis. They are still understaffed, overworked. Right at this moment, we are witnessing how bad working conditions and low pay exacerbate labor shortages and create a situation that is entirely unsustainable. Now, I want to state this clearly. The fruits of our labor need to be distributed and redistributed in a fair way, because economic growth doesn't mean anything if at the same time we have increased inequality. It doesn't mean anything if the average family standard of living declines. Then growth means nothing. So this is a matter of justice, of respect for every worker, because being a worker cannot mean that you live in poverty, you wear yourself out, or have to be afraid of dying on your job. To the contrary, you should be able to live well, feel secure, have a job that you want to go to, have the freedom and power to shape your own life. We want to build a society that is just as good for the nanny as for the bank manager, for the truck driver, as for the doctor. Now, it is still a long way to get there. We cannot let ourselves get derailed by the multiple crises that seems to only accelerate in their frequency. Now, to get there and facing these challenges, I take away the following key messages from the discussions here today. The first one is jobs. Jobs, jobs, jobs. High-quality jobs are the foundations of a resilient society. As we confront the multiple crises and structural transformations of our time, the fight for good employment for all remains at the heart of our movement and guides our political actions. Decent jobs, well-functioning public services, and a safety net that citizens can rely on are at the heart of our European societies, our democracies, and our prosperity. The second, a just transition. Now, the shift to carbon neutrality promises tremendous benefits, but also challenges. We want to make sure that the green and digital transition advance the objective of social progress for all. We must seize this evolution as a fantastic opportunity to make our societies more equal, more just, and fair. The third is the central role of collective bargaining. Workers deserve to have a seat at the table and to actively shape the decisions that impact their lives. Perhaps that sounds not so surprising coming from a former trade union representative, who's still a trade unionist. But it still is a fact, in my view, that trade unions are best positioned to represent workers' interests. And that is why the fight for collective bargaining, workplace democracy, and co-determination is a core element of our vision of a better world. These three, among others, are the messages we will pass on any occasion this year and next year. Tomorrow's social forum will be one of the first opportunities to do so. Let's also keep up today's energy and ambition. The social forum is also a great opportunity to take stock of the social situation in our European Union. And I think that we regularly need to check on the state of social progress in the EU. That is what will keep us accountable, ambitious, and on track for 2030. In 2021, for the first Porto Summit, I was interviewed just before the start of the meeting, and I stated my confidence that the summit, the social summit, will indeed help implement Gothenburg principles. Now today I'm even more convinced than 2 years ago. So what we will do tomorrow will help implement the European Pillar of Social Rights. Now, our next speaker, Prime Minister Antonio Costa, is a great advocate of a social Europe. We have worked together, and I appreciate that cooperation. We're still working together. You know at first hand, you that live in Portugal, what this man can achieve. Thanks to his efforts, PES, the government, Portugal's unemployment rates are going down. The wages are going up. Measures for affordable housing are introduced, and new targeted actions to support families facing current inflation, such as the VAT reduction for essential food items, is actually helping thousands and thousands of Portuguese citizens every day. You know it in Portugal, we know it in Brussels, to where we have seen him lead the fights together with our family for a better Europe. So before giving you the floor, Antonio, I just want to thank all the participants again here for being here, participating in this, for your contributions tonight and tomorrow. We have a lot to deliver on, but we also have a lot to be proud of. So let's continue the good work, let's continue the fight. Now it is an honor for me to give the floor to the closing Antonio Costa, please.
Dear comrades, allow me to speak in Portuguese, and for me it's a great pleasure to welcome you here. We are very proud to host this social forum and to welcome you again here in Porto. Caras e caros camaradas, caros e caros amigos, saúdo na pessoa do Stefan Löfven todas e todos os socialistas europeus aqui presentes. Saúdo particularmente o meu amigo Nicolás Schmidt. Já há vários anos que trabalhamos em conjunto, desde os tempos em que ele era ministro responsável pelas migrações e eu ministro do Interior. Quero saudar muito calorosamente o Vasco Cordeiro, presidente do Comitê das Regiões. Saudar também o nosso camarada presidente do Comitê Económico e Social da União Europeia. E saudar-vos a todos. Para nós socialistas, a Europa é, antes do mais, uma comunidade de valores. E para nós um valor fundamental é o valor da solidariedade. E é por isso que para a nossa família o desenvolvimento do pilar social da União Europeia era tão importante. Começou com o Stefan em 2017, quando em Gotemburgo pudemos aprovar os 20 princípios fundamentais do pilar social. Pudemos dar continuidade na presidência portuguesa ao aprovar o plano de ação que o Nicolás Schmidt foi desenvolvendo para traduzir em ação os 20 princípios fundamentais. O mote da nossa presidência era "It's time to deliver". E aquilo que procuramos foi precisamente converter em ação aquilo que eram os princípios fundamentais que tínhamos em Gotemburgo. Mas para nós ficou claro desde o princípio que esse plano de ação tinha que ter objetivos quantificados, metas concretas, para que pudéssemos ir medindo a execução desse plano de ação. Era um plano aprovado em 2021, no horizonte de 2030. 9 anos, muito tempo, muitas legislaturas, 2 mandatos, pelo menos, do Parlamento Europeu e da Comissão Europeia. E por isso termos objetivos concretos, mensuráveis, era aquilo que nos permitia ir acompanhando a execução. E é por isso que amanhã, 2 anos depois de termos tido a Cimeira Social do Porto, temos aqui o Fórum Social para poder medir o avanço que fizemos e podermos ver aquilo que é necessário acelerar, aquilo que é necessário acrescentar, tendo em conta que a realidade da Europa é uma realidade que é bastante diversa. Em 2021 não estávamos num tempo qualquer. Estávamos ainda em plena pandemia. Num momento onde creio que todos os europeus, e em particular as jovens gerações, compreenderam a importância de termos um modelo social. Porque foi esse modelo social que permitiu sustentar a resposta a uma crise que ninguém tinha conhecido nas nossas gerações e enfrentar essa crise com sucesso. Aquilo que fez mesmo a diferença entre a forma como gerimos a crise económica de 2008 e a forma como enfrentámos a crise gerada pelo Covid em 2020 foi mesmo o facto de termos aprendido em conjunto as lições, e houve 3 dimensões que fizeram claramente a diferença. A primeira, porventura a mais importante, que salvou milhões de empregos em toda a Europa, foi termos criado o mecanismo do SURE. O mecanismo do SURE protegeu milhares ou milhões de empregos em toda a Europa. E a lição que devemos retirar é que nós precisamos de um mecanismo permanente de estabilização de crises. Felizmente, as crises não são permanentes, mas nós sabemos que, infelizmente, as crises são recorrentes. E de cada vez que surge uma crise, não temos que estar a reunir horas infindáveis o Conselho para procurarmos encontrar uma solução em comum. É melhor termos um instrumento permanente para que possamos utilizar sempre e quando necessário. Segundo elemento que fez completamente a diferença é que desta vez abordámos a crise não na lógica da austeridade, mas na lógica da solidariedade. A inteligência como soubemos suspender temporariamente as regras do Pacto de Estabilidade deram a todos os governos a margem de manobra necessária para podermos responder a esta crise. E aquilo que tem sido a evolução das finanças públicas nos diferentes Estados demonstra bem que fizemos bem, porque o termos recuperado as nossas economias mais rapidamente do que aquilo que aconteceu na crise de 2008-2011 fez com que também mais rapidamente os diferentes Estados estejam a reduzir os seus déficits e tenham retomado uma trajetória de redução da dívida pública. Não é com austeridade que nós criamos economias fortes, é com a economia forte, suportada em emprego, que nós podemos, efetivamente, ter finanças públicas sustentáveis e mais sólidas. A terceira grande diferença é que desta vez percebemos que era necessário ter um novo programa que tivesse focado naquilo que é o futuro da Europa. E foi por isso que surgiu o Next Generation. E chama-se Next Generation porque está mesmo focado nas futuras gerações. Naquilo que é preciso transformar hoje para garantirmos o futuro. E garantir o futuro significa que nós temos de acelerar a dupla transição que vai construir o nosso futuro. A transição energética e a transição digital. Mas para que esta dupla transição tenha sucesso, nós precisamos de um forte pilar social. Porque nós precisamos de investir nas qualificações para que todos sejam capazes de enfrentar as novas qualificações que são necessárias nesta dupla transição. Nós temos de investir na inovação para que as nossas empresas sejam mais competitivas e sejam capazes de conduzir e liderar esta dupla transição. E nós precisamos ter um Estado Social forte, uma garantia para todos de que ninguém fica para trás. Porque é preciso falar verdade aos cidadãos. Esta dupla transição coloca desafio à competitividade das empresas e à segurança dos postos de trabalho. Há postos de trabalho que vão desaparecer. Provavelmente há profissões que vão desaparecer. Aquilo que nós temos que assegurar é que todos aqueles que perdem o seu posto de trabalho, todos aqueles que exercem uma profissão que vai deixar de existir, têm a oportunidade e têm as condições de poderem ter as qualificações necessárias para ter um emprego mais qualificado e para ter uma nova profissão do futuro. E que aqueles que não o têm, e enquanto não o têm, não vão ficar na pobreza. Mas nós temos um Estado Social forte que apoia essa transição e que garante que ninguém fica ao abandono e é deixado por sua conta. Não. Numa sociedade decente, nós vamos fazer todos juntos esta transição sem deixar ninguém para trás. E é por isso que o pilar europeu dos direitos sociais é tão importante. Porque é a nível da Europa que nós conseguimos fazer esta transição. Nós não chegaremos sozinhos à neutralidade carbónica. Nós não chegaremos sozinhos à sociedade onde as novas ferramentas digitais vão melhorar a nossa qualidade de vida, vão melhorar a competitividade das nossas empresas e vão nos permitir ter empregos mais qualificados. Nós só chegaremos a estes objetivos, todos em conjunto, e só chegaremos se todos em conjunto os conseguirmos alcançar. Se acharmos que cada um o faz por si, nós não chegaremos a lado nenhum. E o lado onde nós queremos chegar, o objetivo onde nós queremos estar, é todos juntos chegarmos a este objetivo. E é por isso que o pilar social é da maior importância. Investir cada vez mais na formação. Investir cada vez mais na qualificação e na requalificação. Investir mais na capacidade de inovação. E combater, obviamente, aquilo que são as fraturas sociais que nós conhecemos. Continuar a combater a pobreza, porque há sempre novas gerações de pobres a quem nós temos que enfrentar, apoiar para se libertarem da pobreza, porque só libertando da pobreza se alcança plenamente a cidadania. E é mesmo de cidadania que nós temos que tratar. Mas nós, na nossa Europa, nós não podemos olhar só para os mais frágeis. Não podemos olhar só para aqueles que estão na situação de pobreza. Hoje, o grande desafio que a Europa tem de proteger a sua liberdade, de proteger a sua democracia, é defender as classes médias na Europa. Porque a classe média é quem assegura a existência da democracia. É quando a classe média se sente abandonada, se sente desamparada, se sente insegura, que nós temos o terreno fértil para os radicalismos se desenvolverem, para o populismo crescer e para a extrema-direita se tornar uma ameaça. Sempre, ao longo da história, que a classe média se sentiu insegura e abandonada foi quando a extrema-direita e o radicalismo conseguiu crescer. Se nós queremos defender a nossa democracia, a nossa liberdade, se nós queremos mesmo combater a extrema-direita, nós temos de dar oportunidades à classe média e garantir às novas gerações que não vão ter uma vida pior que os seus pais, mas vão ter a oportunidade de ter uma vida melhor que os seus pais, como os seus pais tiveram uma vida melhor que os seus avós. Esta é a esperança e o sentido de futuro que nós temos de garantir às novas gerações. Sim, não chegámos lá. Sabemos que é uma grande caminhada. Mas há 200 anos, quando o movimento socialista surgiu, estávamos muito mais longe do que estamos hoje. Em 2017, quando o Stefan nos convocou a todos para irmos a Gotemburgo, estávamos mais longe. Quando em 2021 nos reunimos aqui no Porto, estávamos mais longe. E aquilo que vamos fazer amanhã é medir o que já avançamos e, sobretudo, sinalizar o quanto temos que avançar, porque daqui a 2 anos vamos voltar a estar aqui, em 2025, a medir os progressos que vamos fazer entre 2023 e 2025. E aquilo que eu desejo a todos é que em 2027, em 2029, estejamos aqui outra vez, não só para medir o percurso feito, mas para em 2029 estarmos a lançar um novo plano de ação para a década 2030-2040. Mitterrand disse há muitos anos que o socialismo era a ideia mais jovem. Passaram muitos anos, mas o socialismo continua a ser uma ideia muito jovem e por isso temos uma longa vida à nossa frente e essa longa vida pela qual que nós temos que viver com muito orgulho, como disse o Stefan. Stefan, estamos nas tuas mãos e nas tuas mãos estamos em boas mãos. Vamos a isso.
Final do PES Social Summit em Matosinhos. Obrigado a todas e a todos Gostaria, neste momento, de convidar todos os oradores e moderadores a subirem novamente ao palco para a tradicional foto de família. End of the PES Social Summit in Matosinhos, Porto, Portugal. Thank you to each and everyone. At this moment, I would like you to invite all speakers and moderators to take the stage for the traditional family photo.
Empty hearts were meant to go for me. Take my hand, help me understand how it's meant to be. Wake up, we face thunder. Wake up, but you never tell me why. Wake up. The harder we try, the closer we get to goodbye. Wake up, we face thunder. Wake up, but you never tell me why. Wake up. The harder we try, the closer we get to goodbye. Wake up, we face thunder. Wake up, but you never tell me why. The harder we try, the closer we get to. Wake up, we face thunder. Wake up, but you never tell me why. The harder we try, the closer we get to.
Watch the morning chase the night, followed by a misty light. Oh, you know what it's like, oh, you know what it's like, I know you do. Birds singing melodies, gazing from the tops of trees. Oh, you know what it's like, oh, you know what it's like, I know you do. Stay a little longer, just a little longer, count me out. Oh, I listen to the wind, companion of our times, ease and restless minds of all kinds, all the time. Don't need wrongs to make things right. The spirits lift him like a guide. Oh, you know what it's like, oh, you know what it's like, I know you do. It's everything as it should be. Let worry slip away from me. You know what it's like, oh, you know what it's like, yeah, I know you do. So So I stay a little longer, just a little longer, count me out. And I listen to the wind, companion of all times, easing restless minds of all kinds.